Good afternoon, my fellow Tottenham fans, and welcome back to the Irish Hotspur for Match Day Live as Tottenham travel across London to take on Chelsea and watch Tottenham's 300th London derby in the Premier League. So hopefully we can mark that with a nice win tonight. However, a lot of fans have probably given up on the season after that North London derby defeat, and I do not blame them. It is up to the team tonight to give us something to believe in between now and the rest of the season. So let's wait and see what happens there. As you can see, we are joined by, of course, Jack. I am back from the North London derby, back safe and sound. I'm very upset and disappointed. And we do have Johnny here as well. You may know him from Devil's Advocate on Sean's channel. Great contributor on that show, and we've brought him here today. Now, we only have him for about an hour and 20, because he is heading to the game tonight. So we're going to make best use of his time while we have him. So I'm just going to quickly run straight into everything that you guys need to know. Of course, we are away at Stamford Bridge. I think one win over the last 20 years there. Not a good record. Kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. tonight. Robert Jones is the referee. I noticed they left Michael, don't need Michael Oliver anymore to referee Tottenham games now that he's refereed us out of Champions League qualification. And in the VR room, it is Michael Salisbury. If you want to watch the game tonight, it is on Sky Sports in the UK and Ireland. In USA, it's on Peacock TV. And in Australia is on Optus Sports. Now, injury-wise for us, of course, Destiny Udogie out now till the end of the season, along with Timo Werner, Ben Davies, Solomon, Fraser Forrester, and Sessegnon. I don't have all the Chelsea injuries here. There was a lot of them, so I just left out some of them, to be brutally honest. The boy got a bit lazy. But Fofana, Lavia, Fernandez, and Kunku, Colwill, James, Gusto, I believe Thiago Silva, and that's out as well. So they've got a lot of injuries. I think they've got 14 injuries tonight to deal with. Let's welcome a few people in, and then we'll crack on and we'll get Jack and Johnny into action. Big up Dermotron, recovering from tonsillitis. Everyone, please wish him well in the chat. Hopefully you're keeping well, my man. We also have Alexander. Good to see you in the building. Hopefully you're keeping well. He's going to miss the first 30 minutes because of work. Look, you need to convert your boss to a Spurs fan is what I would say. Rhythmic Renegade, big up, lads. I think we'll get creamed at Stamford Bridge today. 2-0 Spurs. And just out of his depth. Well, look, I'm going to be brutally honest. A lot of this show today, especially at the start of it, is Ange's words from the press conference and the embargo section. It's going to be very heavy on that. So please go along with us and put your answers in the chat as we go along. Big up, Dan. Good to see you as always. Battle of the Bridge feeling tonight, especially after the home game earlier in the season. How many sirs are we getting tonight, Jack? Probably quite a few, I would imagine.
Plenty, probably, when it comes to Chelsea. You think that, we brought up before, even when we played well against them, we've still found a way to lose. And often when that's the case, referees usually are helping out the other side, as a good explanation for it. So likely plenty of sirs. Give me the over-under, Dan.
We are specialists in, turning defeat from the from the jaws of victory. We've managed to snatch defeat. That's our specialist subject matter. So we got the nickname.
Seems to be. Big up, Jose, as well. Good to see you in the building, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. Good prediction video this week. The only one that predicted a win, by the way, may I add. Good to see you as well. Romero's revenge. I do hope so. Alpesh Patel, great to see you as always. We also have Mungi as well. Great to see you along with Mr. Maddox. We also have Wilson94 Battle Cry. Feeling pumped. I want to see 11 Bravehearts. I think we all do tonight, my man. Big up Neville Mungan. Good to see you as always as well. Make sure we're not missing anyone. The vibe. Great to see you. You're a disgrace if you don't beat Chelsea, who have like 20 players out. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Lazy 8, Nick, good to see you, my man. Hopefully you've recovered. He says maybe it's jet lag, maybe it's psychedelic flashbacks, but I'm going 3-0 to the good. Come on, you Spurs. What I will say is Tottenham do have a habit of turning up when you least expect it, so let's wait and see. Big up Mick as well. Great to see you. Daniel as well. Shem Tan, as always, great to see you, along with Wembley 1, Lisa, Derek Hutchison, Paul Connor, good to see you, my man. Frank Marcel, Steve as well. Robbie Belcher, good to see you. Tequila 316 as well. Great to see you. And then we also have this from Martin Knightsbridge. Says, afternoon, lads. Looks like everyone's been humbled after the North London derby, but all I want tonight is a good team performance and getting the basics right. Come on, you Spurs. I mean, Johnny, you are going to the game tonight. I mean, what are you expecting? Because many fans have sort of said since the North London derby, the general feeling is that the season's over for them, and they just want to sort of get it over, head into the transfer window and head into next season. Where are you at with it? Since that North London derby defeat, is Champions League qualification sort of gone out the window with it?
Listen, we don't deserve Champions League, number one. Number two, we can't handle the Champions League. this, don't be delusional, guys. Come on, let's be serious, right? The format's changed. I see still people saying, "Oh, but we can go into the Champions League and we can finish third and drop into the Europa League." No, that's over. That format is finished. Once you're out, you're out. Okay. I'm not into humiliation, right? Listen, I've done enough self-harming over the last wee while. I'm going to self-harm tonight, and I'm going to self-harm again on the way to Liverpool on the weekend. For me, it's about pride of the badge, and not letting those fans down who came. I don't want to be seeing this after 5 minutes, and this after 10, and this after 20.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. I just, let's we all know, we're all thinking Nicholas Jackson, who makes Timo Werner look like prime Harry Kane. We just hope that Nicholas Jackson doesn't turn into prime Harry Kane tonight, because guy can't hit a barn door, suddenly will be hitting the eye of the needle. So we got to go there aggressive. I want to see a different team. Listen, I was not happy like you, Dave, with the team selection.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it had the characters for aggression. For me, I would have started Emerson. I know people will say it's hindsight, but for me, Emerson is a much better defender in the air than Ben Davies, and he would have helped. Dragusin would have helped. Yes, I would have played Romero as the 6. Is that the way to go forward? No, but I don't think any of them are performing in the 6. I would have started Richarlison to add that height and the aggression, holding the ball up, give us better coverage again, defending set pieces. Yeah. And I would have started Lo Celso. So none of those started. So tonight, I've seen lots of people saying, you never drop Maddison. He's undroppable. Well, I'm sorry, right? He's MIA. 4 goals all season. All this, he's as good, if not better than Odegaard. Come on, guys. Let's be real, right? He can't hold a candle to him. So tonight, I'd like to see Gio in there because he's aggressive. He's a nasty little individual. Great touch. 1 touch. Not 5 touches, looking up. The one thing with Maddison, I don't think this system, I know it sounds crazy because he signed him, but I don't think this system suits him. We are so inverted, like a vacuum sealed pack in that midfield. There doesn't seem to be any room for him to maneuver. So you can't take 3 or 4 touches. So for me, Gio's the guy who can take 1 touch and flick the ball on. I just think tonight, Romero, Porro, Richarlison, Gio, and the rest, I want to see. I just want to see some manning up tonight. I don't mind if we lose, but we've left everything on the on the pitch. I don't know about you guys, but the result wasn't the game. I didn't think on Saturday, but when you look at it, did you really feel that those guys were fighting for their lives, fighting for every ball? Nah, I didn't. Maybe the last 15, maybe. I didn't see the aggression. What about you guys?
Look, I think there was a couple of exceptions to that rule. I think Romero, I've seen it with him. I think Papa Matasar when he came off the bench as well with him, the young kid, fought an awful lot. And Richie as well. But look, we looked so much better when Richie went up top and we could get some back out facing the opposition and running at them from the left-hand side. Look, for me, I'm with you. I want to see a lot of aggression today. I want to see us, learn from errors. I don't want to be seeing us conceding from set pieces. I don't want to see us being naive on being hit on the counter by Chelsea tonight, because they will exploit that. They exploited it against us. Okay, yeah, they waited till we got 2 men sent off, but they caught us right at the end. So for me, I just want to see a bit of aggression. I want to see a bit of fight tonight. And I actually want to see a team that believes they can still go for Champions League football despite it now sort of being slim hopes. That's what I would like to see tonight. And I do agree, I would like to see changes to that starting lineup. I think Papa Matasar is absolutely crucial. I think you have to play him in the midfield completely. When he's not there, we get turned over more often than not, and by big score lines as well when he's not in that midfield. I think he's crucial. When it comes to Lo Celso, I do disagree with you. For me, I just don't want to be relying on a player that I've sat here relying on for 4 or 5 years and he's never really sort of produced. I would argue I wouldn't mind seeing Kulu in that position tonight, or even put Rodrigo Bentancur in there and let's see what they could do. that's where I'm at with it. I mean, Jack, where are you at with it? And we'll bring Soren in here as well, and then we'll get his thoughts on it after. But where are you at with tonight, Jacko? Fight. Do you want to see get the basics right, like Martin Knightsbridge is saying?
Yeah, I think you guys covered it, and I think I'm sort of on the same lines as really Martin here, where I am kind of actually probably looking for a little more than even just getting the basics right, to be perfectly honest. I am kind of expecting some kind of result of some sort. I know it's going to be a tall order because we're basically cursed over there, but it seems like at this stage, like Ange really needs a win. The fans really need a win, or it's just at least some kind of convincing result, whether it be a draw where we just at least look like the better team throughout the 90 minutes, kind of performance. And I think that's what at least I'm kind of expecting, or at least hoping for, to get me kind of, I think I'm still, much more of a defender of Ange than maybe others at this stage, but I still think a lot of people, still rely on results and still rely on at least some sort of complete performance to give them that sort of evidence that things are still headed in the right direction. And I think it's still going to have to come in a big game like this against Chelsea, Martin. So I'm still in the same kind of boat as him, but practically probably a little bit more as well.
And there's no hiding place tonight. I mean, it's big game after big game. We screwed up against likes of Fulham and Newcastle where we really needed to bank the points. So there's no hiding place tonight. They have to, Brighton as well. So they have to come out and show a bit of fight. But big up, Martin. Really appreciate the super chat, my man. But look, we're going to get into Ange, like you mentioned in a minute, Jack, where people are with him. I've pulled out a lot from the press conference, but I just want to find out where Soren is heading into tonight's game before we really delve into some of the stuff that has come out about Ange that has maybe put a bit more nervousness across the fan base. But Soren, where are you heading into tonight's game? A lot of people feel like the season's over and they just want to get through with it as little as damage limitation as possible, I suppose.
I don't think the season's over at all. I don't see why we still can't qualify for top four, and I don't see why we shouldn't be pushing for it. I mean, tonight will tell us the answers to that, because if we do lose, then we've no chance of it. But look, you all know I'm always optimistic. I'm kind of Mr. Positive, unfortunately. Stop laughing, Johnny. I don't see, and I know a lot of people don't want top four, but to me, I want to see our players playing in the best league. If we stuff up, we stuff up. But I'd rather be in the Champions League where the players want to play than Europa or that other conference thing where they don't want to play for it. They don't want to be there, so they don't even try. What do I want to see tonight?
You mean the Conference League? Do you mean Europa League? Europa League and the Conference. Let's not compare the two, because one is a bargain bucket, middle of the aisle little deal, and the other one is an established competition that just changed names. In other words, it's the UEFA Cup, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, with that, we've been in that before, and we've not taken it seriously still.
Yeah, I agree.
So what? My argument is, at least when we're in the Champions League, we kind of try to take it seriously. I mean, I know last season was a little bit different, and we didn't take it seriously, but generally, when we're in the Champions League, at least we see some some fight. Europa and the Conference, we just always play weakened teams, and every match we come back and say we didn't try. We should have won that. We haven't won it. So I don't want to be in them competitions personally. I'd rather not be in Europe again. But that's not helped us this season. Yeah, but I mean, it's not helped us, has it? That's the problem.
Do you not think Europa League, though? I mean, from my point of view, I don't know what you guys think, but for me, I understand you. I don't personally think we're ready for the Champions League, personally. But with Europa League, I feel this is an opportunity for the very things that we're complaining about that's not happening to happen, i.e. an opportunity to play some of the lesser players, the squad players, to get us through, to win the games. And when we are qualified, an opportunity to give some of our academy kids to balance in and throw the odd one or two in, to give them the moments and the chances of progression with the club without that competition. I hear what you're saying, Soren, but in the Champions League, let's be honest, none of those are going to see the light of day. I think there's more of a chance to that. And I would rather win the Europa League.
Over the last few seasons, when we've been in Europa or Conference, we haven't played those players.
We haven't had the players, though, Soren. not like we got now.
I mean, even when we've had the opportunity to play some developing players or whatever, we haven't taken it. I don't think we would now. I don't think, and again, and I don't want to be disrespectful for anything, but I don't think if we're in Europa or the conference, we will take it seriously. I just don't. I understand what you say that when we are not equipped to be in the Champions League, but I would rather be in that and see the play, because the players are going to try and get up if they're allowed to. And in Europe, they're not. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, because I mean, I think there's been a statement out over today or yesterday or whatever saying we've got 2 plans. I don't know who's put it out. 2 plans. Yeah. If we're in the Champions League, we're going to sign, and if we're in the
It's the same old speech. It's the same old speech every
but you just time. Know that if we're not in the Champions League, those players we go for are going to be dross. Hang
on a second. Listen, when Arsenal weren't in the Champions League, right, what did they do? They went out and spent a whole shed load of money on quality players.
But that's not us.
I know that's not us. But I do feel that Europa League is our level, and I feel like the Europa League is something we could potentially win. And I also feel that it's an opportunity. I'm not saying go and play the whole team of 18, 19-year-olds. I'm saying, when you've got a squad of 25, and a lot of those underage are not going to be getting minutes, okay, that they get minutes in this competition, along with a few academy kids like a Donnelly, like a Phillips, rather than send them out on loan, they could actually get playing minutes, and state their case.
I do. I do understand both arguments, actually. Look, to Soren's point, we don't take it seriously. We haven't in years gone by. Players have gone out there with half-ass attitudes. But what I will say is a lot of them players have left this football club. When we are building a sort of new squad going into a new era with more rotation in the summer, I think the last dregs of that, them sort of players will be gone. And hopefully you'll have a new sort of momentum, a new maybe attitude towards competitions around at Tottenham. But to Johnny's point, I mean, look, if we did end up in the Europa League, is it worse? Probably worst case scenario coming out of this season. Okay, I'll take it. I would like to be in the Champions League personally, because I want to be in that new format, and stuff like that. But if we do go into the Europa League, there are benefits. People say, are we going to use some of the youngsters? In years gone by, we haven't, because we've used it to try and play squad players into form. But I think this time around, going into it next season, I think there is an opportunity to bring some of the youngsters. Look, if you're going to Europa League, you're traveling to the back arse of nowhere across Europe. You have to have a squad of 30 players. You're allowed to register, I think, a squad of 25. You're going to have to make up that other 5 with some academy youngsters to bring through. Now, Arsenal are at the point where they've got Saka and that in the team, but they originally started by breaking them in through the likes of the Europa League and giving them minutes across Europe and stuff like that.
6 of them.
Yeah. Smith Rowe and people like that. So it can work out to our benefit. So look, I just want European football. I've been sick midweek not having any football whatsoever in terms of Tottenham games and stuff like that. All the focus being on all of our rivals and stuff like that. I absolutely dreaded it this sort of time around. So for me, I just want any sort of European football. But look, I'm going to take a couple more super chats, and then I want to delve into Ange Postecoglou and what came out in the embargoed section, because I want to see where people are at with it, because it doesn't sound too right to me. And it sort of sounds of times and eras gone by where players maybe aren't buying into what managers are bringing to this football club. So just bear with me, guys. Big up Martin Knightsbridge, though. Really appreciate the support, brother. And hopefully you've enjoyed the debate off the back of your super chat. So really appreciate that, lad. We've got Mia W says, big up, guys. It was great to meet Dave and Johnny. It was great to meet you too, Mia. Unfortunately, I would have liked it to be a little bit longer, but we did get stuck in traffic on our way to the game, and nothing we could do there.
I wasn't waiting long.
I might have a better sat nav.
I'm still waiting outside the Coach and Horses.
I know, lad. So because I asked the taxi man when you first rang me, where are we? He said we're 15 minutes out, and then we were stalling traffic for like half an hour. It was disgusting. Big up MV Joker Davies as well. He's become a new YouTube member, and he also put in a super chat saying full-time member of the Flat Cap Army. Big yourself up and really appreciate the support and welcome. And make sure you check out members only content and stuff like that, and get on the fan shows as well. And then we have a random name here, says Kulu left back, loves drifting into the 10. Look, I get it. And maybe it's at a point where it's a need must, but we got to stop repurposing players. I mean, first of all, to play left back, you do have to have some sort of defensive instinct, and that's not Kulu's first mind. I do think it will either be Emerson out there, or you might even see Van de Ven moved out there with Dragosin being moved into the centre-back position tonight. But you have to have someone that is first and foremost defensively minded. You're talking about keeping a line, taking in instructions and everything else in the heat of the battle. It's not easy to convert a winger to go and play left back just like that. I can tell you that now. So for me, look, we will get into talk about the left back situation. Don't worry about that. I do have that on the agenda, but I think Kulu is a bit of a stretch for me in that regard. But big yourself up, and everybody, there's already over 200 in-house. Keep smashing that like button and doing all that good stuff. But guys, let's get into it. I mean, there was an embargoed section of Ange Postecoglou's press conference that broke there about lunchtime today. And it seems that Ange Postecoglou has acknowledged that a majority of his Spurs players and staff are still not true believers in his approach. I mean, look, we'll start with you on this one, Jack, and work our way around the panel. Is that worrying to you? And what players do you think have brought in and what players haven't?
It is worrying to me on the surface level, but at the same time, like that's happened with every other manager we've had, in the last 3 or 4, like it was tail end of Poch. We were hearing they didn't really want to stop running for him, anymore. They were tired of the physical training and, the constant sort of, difficult summers, I believe, that sort of thing. Then it came to Jose. Eventually, they stopped believing in Jose, stopped believing in the tactics of sitting back, looking to hit people on the counter, probably also his sort of, personal kind of, management style when it actually comes to how he deals with his own players. I think they got sick of pretty quickly. You then move on to Antonio Conte and Nuno, pretty much the same thing. They definitely didn't believe in Nuno's tactics. And I believe even Davies in particular went and complained to Daniel Levy, right? I think that's even well documented. Yeah, then you go on to Conte, pretty much the same thing after a year and a half. There was almost a full divide, a full split in the team with guys that definitely did not want to play for him and guys that really did want to play for him. And it's not a surprise that Ange Postecoglou is, following in a long line of managers where that seems to happen. For me personally, though, I can't really say that a lot of guys are really in that bracket because, some of our best players seem to be practically doing everything that, Ange Postecoglou would embody. And I think a good example of that would be Romero, Dave, as somebody who's probably the most Ange player that you could probably find. The guy never looks to play sideways, looks always to try to press, looks always to keep a high line. And in possession as well. You think of what he tries to do with the pitch, or with the ball at his feet, breaks the pass or breaks the lines of the midfield. Some of the passes he plays in, out of the back are ridiculous. And I think he's probably the most Ange player out there, the bravery that he has. Maybe guys like Madison, I could hint at, he's starting to be pulled off early, a little conservative, not really taking many risks in possession either. So I would hint at maybe guys like Madison, but it's hard to know, whether any of the really good players in the team, that are starting week in, week out are the ones that actually, are starting to, not believe in Ange anymore.
Shots, guys, just quickly, we will go on to set pieces and that. Don't worry, I've got all these quotes that he's made from there to have good discussions on that. I just want to deal with this one in particular, because it is worrying signs when a manager comes out and says what he has said, that people are maybe are failing to buy in. That is a huge problem. But to Jack's point, I mean, Johnny, Jack makes a good point. It is something that we've seen under Jose. It is something that we've seen under Conte. And to be brutally honest, I thought it'd be eradicated, getting rid of the likes of Dyer, Sanchez, and people like that. But it seems the problem still seems to be at this football club.
Listen, I think Ange loves it all. I think Ange loves the drama. I think Ange loves to be in the centre of it all. Instead of quelling comments in the press, he enhances them. He throws, here's a bit of fuel on the fire.
He likes to stir the pot.
Did he need to say that today? No, right? This was a guy in the first 10 games who wouldn't have a bad word said about one single person. Everything was behind the scenes. And we were all saying, how refreshing that a guy is not airing his crap in public, right? And now we've got a situation whereby, I'm not going to say what I know that's gone on between a couple of players. I think I've mentioned it to you, Dave, before. But I think it didn't need to be said. It did not need to be said. Why? if you're volunteering this stuff, you're doing it for a reason. You know,
what reason do you think that could be then, Johnny?
Maybe to say to Daniel that he's not happy with certain elements. You know, I'm going to wear it in public. Look, for me, he should not have got rid of Gianni Vale. I don't want to keep going back. We're dragging on to the set pieces, but here's a guy.
Hold on to the set pieces because we will get on to that.
No. I'm going to come back to that. But here's a guy, you know, where we scored 23% of our goals from, and he didn't want to entertain him. He wanted his own people. And this is a man who will not be swayed from his own journey. If you don't like the journey, get off the bloody bus. Right now, that's great if you're a great driver and you're driving the bus steady. I think right now we're going over some very bumpy ground. There's a lot of potholes, and I think a few of the passengers are clinging on for dear life. I think we might find come the summer there's a few surprises that might leave. When we come back to the other thing about Ange, which you said let's save, I said to you before we came on air, I think there's a very easy way to quell that. I think he loves it. I think it's a message to somebody upstairs, whether it's the recruitment crew, whether it's to Daniel, I don't know, but there's some subliminal message that's going there, because if the player's not happy and people aren't towing the line, come on, guys, right? He ain't no shrinking violet, right? I know he's not a shrinking violet. He's done plenty of screaming behind the scenes, and he would have told, whether it be a coach, whether it be a player, exactly how it has happened. Because when certain players have made him unhappy and other players have come to their rescue, he's told the players coming to his rescue basically to shut it. I'm the manager. I'm the boss. What I say goes, and what you've got to say is irrelevant. So I think this is a message. That's my opinion.
Do you know what? Some of the quotes I'm seeing lately does maybe stink of a man that's waiting for that transfer window, to be brutally honest. But he does seem a guy that's very assured of his future. We'll get onto it a little while, but you know, a lot of his answers are always geared towards next season. So very interesting. We'll get onto that in a minute. But Soren, I mean, where are you at with what Ange has to say about people buying in? Because I mean, do you agree with Jack that it is a problem that's been happening at this football club long before Ange? And do you also agree with Johnny that maybe he's using it he's saying it to maybe send out a message?
I think both of them are spot on. Look, if we look back over the last 10 years, in going from Poch, we've had 3 or 4 managers, and every style has been almost different. There's been a difference in style, and you look at it and you think these, some of the players that have been are probably thinking, well, if it doesn't work, is he going to be here? It's a massive different story. We've heard players coming out saying they're absolutely loving it under Ange. They love the way he plays. I think you've only got to look at the players that aren't playing, and probably they're the ones that are moaning. They're the ones that maybe not quite buying into it. They're maybe the ones that are not happy because they're not playing the positions or they're not getting many minutes. And that's always the case. If you've got players that think they should be starting, they're the first ones to moan. Am I worried? No. It doesn't surprise me that maybe not everybody's bought into it, because
it doesn't sound right though, Soren, right? It doesn't sound good.
Look at us fans. I mean, you talk to a group of people that support Tottenham Hotspur, and everybody's got different opinions to Ange, whether we like his football, we don't like the way he does this, we don't like the way. So it's going to happen within the club as well. So,
fair point.
It's a massive change to what we've seen basically under any manager since probably Ozzy Ardiles. We haven't had that gung-ho mentality. And
so that went well. That one went well, Soren. That one ended up well.
Well, no, but we loved the football, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. The Fantastic Five.
Yeah. But look, this is where I think John is spot on, that it's probably a message to him upstairs saying, look, there are some players that you're going to have to get rid of, because if we don't, and the way Ange runs his ship is, if you're not on board, you're not in it. And you cannot have people that doubt it. Look at what's happened in the past, like we said, people running to Daniel Levy saying they're not happy, people down in tools and not playing. And you look
that used to happen, Soren, that used to happen because, which was completely wrong. Daniel used to have his office at the training ground, and let me slip in and speak to Daniel. He's not being nice to me, Daniel. Come on,
and this
like,
is it.
grow up.
He's not playing me. I want to play. So and that's the problem. You hope now Daniel Levy is no, off you go and do as the manager says. It's because that's what we at the end of the day, that's what you employ a manager for, to run things and do what you're doing. But no, I'm not worried. I mean, I haven't heard all the embargoed sections, so I don't really know exactly how it was said or what. But to me, it's a bit of both. It's not a surprise. It's what it is. I mean, it'd be interesting to know which of the coaching staff and that aren't buying into it, because that to me is more worrying. I mean, that to me is more worrying, that if his coaching staff don't believe in what he's doing, then how can they coach the players to do what he wants to do?
I don't know, Soren, but I'm not happy with what Jedinak's doing. Maybe he's been sent off and sent to the stands, because that's where he sits. He's the only coach of non-said section that we're moving into that sits in the stands. But we will find out in time. The passage of time will tell, and come June, the rumours will become facts.
Exactly. Look, I mean, the only people that know what's going on in Ange's mind is Ange. But let's not forget as well, if you listen to all ex-players that have played under him, all pundits that know him, they all say his first season is rocky. And then you start to see what's going on in the second season. We can only hope that's going to be the case again.
Yeah.
No, look, my job. Hey, Sean, sorry, Dave, imagine that in your job. Look, guys, right, I'm the right man for this job. I'm going to be shit for the first year. I'm going to be really bad, but stick with me, because in the second year I'm going to smash it out.
Yeah, but Johnny, do you honestly think he's been really bad?
I'm joking.
Season?
Sorry,
no, I know you
I'm
are.
joking.
I know you are. But but some people in the audience will probably take that as serious. I know where you're coming from, but if you look at what he's done to the club since last season, I think we are miles ahead of where we all expected to be at the beginning of the season.
Well, certain people might have done. I mean, for me, I expected us to finish 5th or 6th at the start of the season, because I was looking at the quality of the squad. I don't think the squad's as bad as some people make out, personally. We've had a lot of improvements. I can go through them. You know who they are. We got rid of a lot of deadwood. We know who they are, and we got rid of our star player. So you balance it out. If we zoom out, Soren, 100%, I agree with you. We would have all taken 5th place at the start of the season, having closed the season in the toxicity that we left it in. But to finish the season in the same toxicity as we left last season, we must finish this season with hope and determination and fight, so the fans can actually see, you know what, it wasn't all great, but we can see the green shoots of recovery and progression. That's all we're asking for as fans, I think, progression.
I agree with that. It's up to these players now to go out there as well. If they want Ange to be here next season and they want him to sort of be relieved of a bit of a pressure, and they do love playing underneath him, like some have said, you've got to go out there and show that over these next few games. So let's wait, see what happens in that regard. But I do want to get into another section on Ange when he was asked about has he seen progress and stuff, because he said yes. But a lot of fans are saying compared to the first 10 games of the season, we haven't. But I just want to take a quick interruptions and get some of the supporters thoughts on some of the stuff that you guys have all mentioned here. The Big D says happy match day panel and chat. Come on, you Spurs, really appreciate that, Big D. Hopefully it will be a happy match day later on tonight. We'll wait and see. Stamford Bridge is not a happy hunting ground, so I'm going in there expecting nothing tonight. Jory, the Joracle is back. Good to see you, sir. How are you keeping? He says, Ange brings progression in culture, recruitment, and a return to front footy. He won't win. He is deflecting bigly ahead already and acting like an embattled coach. Just wait there, Jerry. I'm going to come back to that in just one moment because it sort of ties in with my next question. So just hold that. And then Adrian Chia says, even Salah fell out with Klopp. Can't please all. Yeah, look, it seems like that relationship's coming to an end. I keep telling my Liverpool friends that he's off this summer along with Jurgen Klopp, along with Coco Klopps. So, that'd be absolutely brilliant. More Salah as well. He can head off out to Saudi and, that'll put it into Liverpool for a little while, which would actually help us going into next season, Adrian Chia. So big yourself up in that regard. But the problem is at Liverpool, a lot of them players do what they're told. We have a culture in years gone by over the last 5-6 years, and it's not a good precedent to be setting, where the players almost dictate what goes on at that football club. They almost dictate their playing time, no matter how bad they're playing. They like Johnny alluded to earlier, they're able to go up to Daniel Levy and moan about not being played. Now, in fairness, Daniel Levy should have turned around and says, have you analysed the performance? There's probably a reason.
Yeah.
And kicked him back out the office. He didn't do that, which is bad. But at some point, this is why I keep saying you have to knuckle down under one manager and go with him and back him beyond belief and make it known to the squad, fans and media and everybody else. This is our guy going forward so that we don't see any of these player power sort of anymore within Tottenham Hotspur. Adrian Chia, big yourself up, because I want to go back to what Jory said here about Ange bringing in a progression in culture, recruitment and a return to front footy, but saying he won't win because Ange Postecoglou disagrees with Jory here. And he says Postecoglou was that because Postecoglou was asked in his pre-match press conference, are you seeing signs of progress? Even after Sunday, are you seeing enough to say you're on the right path? And Ange responded saying, absolutely, yeah, absolutely, clearly, as clear as you want it to be. 2020, definitely, 100%. As fans, I want to know, do we feel the same as Ange? Do we see the progress? And do we feel like we're on the right path? And Jack, we'll let you start off with this one, my man.
Just quickly on what Jory's saying there. Jory, when I spoke to him on the fan show, he was sort of saying how Ange speaks the language, like doesn't speak Levy's language when it comes to like finishing top four, achieving European football, those sort of kind of things. And he said that's actually the type of culture from the manager when he is talking about progression that you do want to be hearing as a fan, because that's against usually what Levy or so-called maybe Levy kind of language managers have had used in the past, you could say. And even the same with kind of some of the recruitment, and just that he's talking about mentality. He's talking about as well, it can be, this price, that price. It's about getting in the right player. He just thinks he does say the right things. It's just the footy is not really sustainable. He feels like, for actually, getting, over the line, especially when it comes to, the type of players that he will need, are going to be real top quality, if I can remember from the conversation. And he, like you said, with the embattled word, I think that basically means he's kind of already digging in his, his foot, or digging in his trenches, preparing, to, stand where he is. He's some people call him stubborn. You could at least say he's persistent, and, he doesn't sway from, from his word and from his principles. And that's, what he's going to be doing. He's going to get into an embattled approach, with the press, with the media, with the fans, with the players. He's ready for all out war in order to defend his style. And I can respect that. But yeah.
Jory also doubles down here though, Jack, and says, win or lose, we have been regressing since the last Chelsea game we played earlier on the season, where of course they ended our 10-game unbeaten run. And since then, injury, suspension, sending offs and stuff like that, it really has sort of derailed our season. I mean, you heard what Ange had to say. Like I said, he completely, 2020 says that we're on the right path. He's seeing signs of progression. I mean, do you agree with Ange on that? And do you agree with even half of what Jory has to say, that we are seeing progression in terms of on the front foot football recruitment and stuff like that? And are you still behind Ange heading into next season?
I am very much still behind Ange for next season, but just to play devil's advocate quickly with a stat that I did hear that did kind of make my jaw drop a little, was that stat of the Iriola. Iriola, since his like really bad, terrible run of games, has actually had a better points accumulation than like Postecoglou, Ten Hag, Pochettino, I think Eddie Howe, like all of these managers. And you kind of think like, wow, a side that's, pretty much, pretty far down the table, right, compared to us, has actually had a better run of games and a better, points, tally since basically that Chelsea game. So that has shown that, we haven't been really that amazing, at least compared to a team like Bournemouth, right? And but with, I think, the regression point that Jory is making, I wouldn't say that that was, completely true, since the Chelsea game, because we won some games with Davies and Emerson playing a high line, and trying to play out from the back and giving, I think, plenty of good sides, good games and good contests. Whereas before with Jose and Conte, as much as I love them, let's be honest, I mean, they would have cried and, complained, after every single game, having to try to do that. Whereas Ange, did actually make a good effort and a good stab at it. And actually, we probably played better games, weirdly, when those two were actually back, playing and defending, for their lives than we have when we've had everyone back from injury. That's where I'd say the real regression, if you were to call it that, has come from, was when we've kind of gotten everybody back from injury. All of a sudden, I feel like we're playing worse and we're not playing the way that we were even during that period when we had pretty much everyone injured. I felt like we saw still a lot more and more progression and, kind of good signs. But since everyone's come back, that's when I would say the so-called regression maybe has started.
Look, do you know what? Just quickly, and we'll let the two boys argue out then between them. Look, for me, I think we have seen progression from where we were last season, losing Harry Kane and stuff like that. And I think Johnny made this point a few minutes ago. We are progressing in that way, and I think when you've got all the players back and the results aren't going our way, it does look like regression. But what I would make the argument is, first 10 games of the season, or the first maybe longer than that, teams didn't respect us. They thought we'd still be the same Tottenham of old. We couldn't be able to play out from the back. But since then, they've altered their tactics to be able to counter what we do. When you hear most managers, and even Arteta after the weekend, they all speak about how hard it is to play against Tottenham. How much the tactics do sort of force them back and make them maybe alter their tactics and stuff like that. But I think teams have copped on that we don't have a clinical forward line. It's nowhere near good enough at the level it should be. And that is the way to stifle Tottenham. And I do think a good transfer window and addressing issues that I personally highlighted in the summer and got shut down for will really help us going into next season and make teams come up with a new way of stopping us or trying to figure us out personally. And that's where I'm at with it. And I'm fully behind Ange. For me, I think it's more teams have sussed out our forward line isn't great rather than us regressing. And I think there was always going to come a point in this season that was going to happen. It's just a shame it's happened come the business end of the season, which is quite unfortunate. The likes of set pieces I will get on to because that is the next topic. And I know people are dying to jump at that, but I want to find out where the two boys are at. So, I mean, look, Johnny, we'll go to you again, my man. Where are you off the back of what Ange said about his belief in that we have progressed and stuff like that? Do you share that belief?
Well, I'll tell you as it is. I'll tell you how it is. I personally feel the best I've seen of Spurs this season was the opening 20 minutes against Chelsea in the opening game. It says, for me, I was sitting there and I was purring at the football we were playing. And the guy next to me said, it's unbelievable football. I said, it's the best football, the best 20 minutes of football I've seen in 5 years. I said, the only problem with that is the games are 90 minutes. And it was a kiss of death because as that happened, Romero got sent off. The goal got disallowed. Romero got sent off. Look, since the Chelsea game, we played 23 games since Chelsea. And in those 23 games, which is a really good sample cut, we are 10th in the league. 10th since those games. Now, like everybody else, I turn around to my Arsenal mates, my Chelsea mates, and my Man United mates and said, yeah, but look at all the injuries. Wait until we get our team back. Wait until our boys get back. Wait till Mickey is back and this one's back and that one's back. And we'll show you. Unfortunately, that's not been the case. I've been to the Brighton games and the other games where, we've been absolutely annihilated. I think Gary O'Neill, who went on television and very eloquently showed on Sky how he dismantled Spurs and how he beat Spurs. He did it twice. I mean, the first time was fortunate. I was at that game, the away game. But he showed how, let them have the ball, and we're happy for you to have the ball, but we know how to counter you. And they, you know, with the 2 goals that they scored, Yao Gomez and I think it was Sariba, I can't remember who got the other one. But and then when I look at Areola, who, you know, we were talking about just before, he's devised a system where for once Solanke had an absolute mare. They had 25 efforts at goal, 25. Yeah. And for some unknown reason, he couldn't hit a barn door. And we got out of that with a win. Thomas Frank did a really good job on us in that first half. You know, it's like Gary O'Neill revealed the blueprint as a spy. I have the blueprint on how to destroy this army. And he put that blueprint out, and that blueprint has been copied by many teams to nullify, not only to nullify our attack, but to expose our weaknesses. And I think they've all changed to varying degrees. Arsenal knew that, you know, they had the counter-attacking speed, and if they got a corner, that they could smash us to bits with those corners. We knew that before the game. So there's no way that Arsenal didn't know. And other teams have used their strengths. So I would say, have we progressed since last year? Yes. Have we progressed since Chelsea? No. I see regression since the Chelsea game. I've seen a fluctuating chart that looks like the FTSE 100, up and down, up and down, up and down, right?
But is that more to the squad than Ange's tactics, though, Johnny? You know, since we've had to rely on a lot of squad players since then.
I think he's stubborn. Look, you know, I'm not going to say me coaching Sunday League football should have an idea of what's going to happen come Saturday or Sunday when we're playing games. So, but for me to call out what I think is going to happen, and it's happened so many times, that should not be the case. You know, I should have a guess of what should happen, and I should have a thought. But, you know, most of us fans, you know, who watch enough football, even those who watch the occasional football I spoke to, turned around and said, don't fancy us at set pieces, don't fancy us at corners. You know, I think we have to give him time, and we have to give him till next season. I hope for his sake we finish with a flourish, because if we lose to Chelsea and Liverpool, we struggle against City, and Burnley give us a hard game, I just got a terrible feeling that toxicity is going to end up going through the roof. Yeah. So I don't want that. I don't think any of us want that. We'd like to finish on a high, hopefully tonight, starting with Chelsea. But I think there's a certain degree of balance between arrogance and naivety. To think you can come in to the strongest league in the world and tell everyone that you've reinvented the wheel, which is what he's telling us. I've invented the wheel. I've got a system that no one else uses. I've got a hybrid of Pep, Klopp, and Mourinho. I've got the hybrid of them all. Don't worry. I don't care if we lose games. I don't care about anything, right? We're on the path to greatness. I want to believe it. I was on that journey. I'm now starting to wobble. I'm not, Ange's not got a clue. But I'd like to see a little bit of bending and changing between now and the end of the season.
Let me just ask you quickly before we bring Soren in here. Do you think that many people's opinions are maybe changing because Ange isn't what they first thought when he came in here? And what I mean by that is everyone was saying, oh, he's here for rebuild. And I tried warning everybody, Jack, you'll vouch for me. He ain't here for a rebuild. He's here to win now. He wants to win trophies. That's his vision. He's won everywhere he's gone. Do you think people are maybe, you know, have the opinion that he's arrogant because they were expecting him to come in here and do a project and adapt, you know, to sort of navigate his way through the project, when in reality he's not doing that. He's doing what a Conte had done, he's doing what a Jose done, and he's stubborn and sticks to his belief. And maybe that's where a lot of the noise is coming from, because they didn't expect it, because a lot of them got their initial opinions wrong on Ange.
I'm a bit conflicted, right? Well, what I really liked about Ange Ball to begin with was the fact, look, what we all know, when you played Conte ball, right, the players, look, they were petrified to pass the ball and lose it, right? There was that fear, God forbid we lose the ball, we're never going to hear the end of it, right? So we've gone from that, and I thought, this is fantastic. here we got a manager that's encouraging our players to take risk. I remember Romero at the beginning of the season made a terrible pass. It led to a goal. Everyone was patting him on the back. Don't worry about it. Whereas under contact, that would have been hell. And we see the risk passing the ball from the back. We see the risk from the midfield. What I'm baffled about is when we get to the final third, we become risk adverse and we end up playing horseshoe football. And when it's like we're scared at that point to break through. I want to see us take risk in that final third where you drive into the box. I mean, the fact that we've only had 2 penalties all season is not because of referees, although it might have been on the weekend. It's not because of referees. It's because we don't take a risk in that final third. And when we have taken a risk, like in Wolves and a couple of other games, what's happened? They've just gone down the other end and scored a goal. So I just would like to see the risk. I'm happy if we're going to risk and take that risk in the final third where we can win games. And then his philosophy makes sense to me because we don't care because we will always score more goals than we concede. I don't see that risk in the final third. Yes, the players could be better. We all know that. But still, Maddison, drive into the box. Kulu, drive into the box. Commit. Make them commit to a tackle. So you win a free kick. We're not winning anything.
Look, I agree with you in terms of the final third and the final risk. For me, though, I was expecting this to happen. When you sell your best creator and your best goal scorer all in one, it's always going to take time for some players to step up and be like, I'm the man, and truly believe it and deliver. And I think that's what we're going through right now. But look, the Owlad, big up the Owlad, by the way, says, I think ball retention has improved, but our defensive players got worse. And look, I think Ange Postecoglou was sort of saying stuff similar, Soren. A lot of his press conferences is alluding to that it's us losing the ball in good positions in that final third from being, like Johnny's saying, we don't take enough risk. We get turned over, and ultimately we end up putting ourselves in trouble because it goes up and gets turned back in the back of the net. And that's why, for me, I keep saying improve this forward line. I think you will see the full effect of Ange ball. But I mean, Soren, where are you at with the project as a whole? Because Ange believes, but there is a lot of noise from media and Spurs fans. Ange out. He's naive. He's not good enough. He can't cut it at this level.
I think if Ange don't believe in himself, then why should anybody else? So he's got to be arrogant, hasn't he? If he comes out and says, "Well, it might work," who's going to believe him? But look, we know those first 10 games. I was one of them, sat there thinking, "Shit, this is some of the best football I've seen for a long, long time," and momentum was building, and we hit that Chelsea game, and even though we lost, we still played well. We were still the better team. You had a belief in there that the players were starting to believe, and everything just went wrong in that, injuries, sending offs, and we say that we've had the full squad back, but we haven't really, have we? Because we've got all the players back from big injuries. They're not just little niggly injuries that have kept them out for a week or two. So, some of our players have been out for a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, even longer. And then you look at it and you think, I think some of our best football has been played when we've had Richie up front. And everybody slates Richie off. But when he's up front, we play a lot better. And that's the one thing I think has been missing. You've got Maddison playing, who's not on form, but who has he got really to, he's got no real target man. Sonny can't hold the ball up. And I know we said Richie couldn't, but he held the ball up better than Sonny does. So, and to me, you want that shithousery as well. He comes on, and I don't know why, but what you just look at the other players and they seem to be better when he's playing. And we're putting crosses in, but who to? There's nobody in the middle that can head the ball unless we're on a corner or something and one of our defenders are up there. So you need that target man. And I'm not saying Rich is the be all and end all. He's not the answer, but I'm hoping he's playing tonight. I think is to me, we just need something, and it's going to click. It will click again, and hopefully tonight it will click. But we're holding the ball better, and most of the matches where we've lost, we've still been the better team in a sense. You know, we've still looked, we just can't finish it. And the other teams, they'll have 2 or 3 shots on target and score. That's the problem for us. We're not clinical enough. And, you know, anybody who doesn't think we're going to concede the way Ange plays is naive, because you are always going to have the chance to concede playing that high line. The corner thing, we've got to sort that out, definitely. But to me, I do see positives, and you know, anybody that thinks it's just all doom and gloom since Chelsea, I think's wrong. I think there's plenty of positives, just maybe not all in the right basket type thing.
No, look, I completely agree with that. I mean, Jack, anything else you want to add to that before we move into set pieces?
I just think people shouldn't get. I can understand some of the frustration with maybe whatever arrogance or stubbornness that maybe some people think Ange has shown in his recent press conference. But I agree with Soren that like he kind of has to show some kind of arrogance. And let's be perfectly frank here: every other manager in the Premier League is pretty arrogant and will often kind of, pretty much spit lies at certain stages. We're looking at Ten Hag defending, conceding 40 shots at goal, on a regular basis, and talking about how well they played and everything when they tie 1-1 at home to Burnley. At least Ange isn't doing that, after games. Pochettino has been saying the same thing. He's been saying some of the same stuff of, oh, we're in the right direction, we're in the right project, people are focusing too much on the outside media, all these sort of things, we're all headed in the right direction. I mean, come on, like Chelsea have far fewer things to point to and to cling to say that they're actually headed in the right direction with their project. So I think Ange, whether it comes off a bit combative or a bit aggressive, I think he's well entitled to show some sort of, arrogance and, believing that there are signs that things are headed in the right way, because, every other manager is also saying the same thing.
The other side to look at as well is, with him coming out with these statements today, is that also a way of just deflecting how poorly we maybe are playing? Give them something different to talk about, and let's not, start slating the team off, rather than, give them what is going on behind the scenes, rather than concentrating on corners and things like that. Everybody's talking about that now, rather than conceding at corners.
Do you know what, though? Let's get into these set pieces, because this is an issue that sort of bugs me, Soren, is everyone goes on like set pieces as just being a problem this season. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's got worse. And the reason why I think it's got worse is because, Richarlison's been one of our best defenders from corner kicks this season, but his availability hasn't been there. I was listening to Golden Guest during the week, and Ali Gold made a great point. I don't agree with him an awful lot of what he says, but he made a great point in terms of Harry Kane was our best defender from set pieces in years gone by, and he's gone. So that probably is where the scrutiny is coming on it a lot more. But why is everyone making out to be an Ange Postecoglou thing? Because I'd argue they're about 3 years late to the party. It was a problem under Jose Mourinho and a problem under Conte last year, especially sort of defensive set pieces. So why are we making out just to be an Ange Postecoglou problem first and foremost before we delve deeper into the set pieces?
I mean, I would argue the fact of we've played games this season and we've looked at teams that have been strong at set pieces, and we've done well. We've come out, maybe not with a clean sheet, we've maybe conceded 1. I think the problem is, all of a sudden, Arsenal, we've conceded 2. And the last few games, we've conceded several goals, and it's all the same. I mean, those corners against Arsenal, we looked like amateurs. We really look. But, there's a couple of screenshots and videos where it's going around, and you've got 4 or 5 Arsenal players all stood at the back, and then you've got all our players marking nobody and looking like lost. That makes, it baffles me as to why the players on the field aren't looking around and thinking, do you know what? We've got to change something ourselves a little bit here. You can't blame Ange's system, because if you're a professional footballer in the top flight of the game, you've got to be able to take some responsibility on yourself. Look, let's not argue that if that's what they're getting told to do, and under no circumstances do you change it, then that's on Ange and his coaching team. But as a professional footballer, if you see something so wrong, you should be changing it on. we should have somebody in there saying, right, you get there, you get there, you get there. Let's just change it slightly. And it just baffles me how easy Arsenal came. I mean, we've never seen that type of thing before where everybody's just stood on the back and all of a sudden they run forward. You know, you see it a little bit. But again, the other side is, why isn't Sonny or somebody stood outside the box? Get some of their players away from our box. And then we go back to Vicario. You know, he needs to man up a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, he's getting pushed around a little bit too easy. You know, you wouldn't have seen Schmeichel getting pushed around like that, would we?
No.
But,
No, I was going to say, I completely agree with Vicario. Look, you know, especially the ones that come into the 6-yard box, they're going to keep coming in until he learns to command that area. Traditionally, me growing up, it's always been the goalkeeper's area, that 6-yard box.
Yeah.
Anything inside that is your fault. You know, that should be your area. But also, he doesn't help himself. He's there going like this, get off to Ben White. He should be screaming at the referee to bring attention to it and stuff like that. You know, but also just use around, push him off, and then go and claim it. It's not good enough from set pieces. I know a lot of people, and I know Johnny will probably argue, you know, we need to bring in a specialist, but I'd argue that specialist is only going to get you so far if players don't have the desire to go and win that ball and head it clear and stuff like that. But before we let Johnny in, I mean, Jack, where are you on the set pieces? Because I'm going to give you Postecoglou's quotes here when he was asked about them pre-match. So where are the quotes here? Just give me... Yeah, so Postecoglou has been asked about set pieces twice since Sunday's North London Derby defeat, where we conceded 2 from corner kicks. But Ange insists he does not believe Tottenham struggled to defend set piece deliveries, saying, if I thought fixing defensive set piece was the answer to us bridging the gap, then I put all my time and effort into that. I mean, Jack, what's your thoughts initially on Postecoglou's reaction to the problem? He seems to be batting it off.
Yeah, I didn't really appreciate it because I didn't think he was very delicate about it. I think he could acknowledge that there has been a problem, but let's not also over exaggerate it, or let's not act like, you know, it's going to be the end all be all for us winning, you know, a title or a trophy or something like that this season, maybe. That being said, though, like, I think he is not being, you know, I think he's not being that honest here, really. Like, it has been a huge issue. We're watching teams, you know, continually just get easy, unchallenged headers and unchallenged set piece goals from us, ones that really don't look that hard to score. Guys like Joao Gomez, some of the smallest players on the pitch, are jumping, you know, between all of our center backs and all of our players without anyone else jumping with him, and he's rising to win the header. I think Johnny or Soren mentioned, you know, Solanke in the Bournemouth game having all those efforts against us. I remember it was like Alex Scott, you know, the guy that we were looking at, that tiny little guy almost had, you know, a free unchallenged header a couple of times, I think towards the end of the game or whatever it was. It has been a huge problem. I don't really know how much of it actually has to do with zonal marking. A lot of it has to do more with just simple desire and simple, just, you know, defending practices of making it harder on your player to rise up. You know, no one's not even, you know, if you're not even going to jump, at least give him a shove, at least give him an elbow, at least give him some sort of challenge, you know, to make it harder on him to try to rise up and win that header. And it seems like no one's willing to do it. Everyone's caught ball watching. No one's brave enough. It is getting really, really frustrating. But and last thing on it with Ange is just, I do feel like he isn't also considering teams like Brentford, Everton, teams lower down the table, some mid-table sides, like, you know, or even a West Ham, you know, with David Moyes. Some of those teams practice more 80% of their game on set pieces, on corners, than they actually even do on what they practice in open play. So he has to, I think, reconcile that there are teams that specialize in set pieces. So you can't just go into it thinking, oh yeah, we'll be able to handle it just fine. No, they're going to cause you problems, and they're going to make you embarrassed, you know, if you don't deal with it properly. And so those are the things that I get slightly frustrated with. Like, you can't just expect that Thomas Frank or Sean Dyche don't have something up their sleeve, because they will.
It's embarrassing, mate. Honestly, honestly, I can't listen to it, right, because it's an embarrassment, okay? All right, I've listened to it, all right. Listen, without set pieces, Everton would have gone down, right? Okay, fact, all right? Look how many goals and games that they've won. If schoolboy football, kids football, right, I've never in my entire life, right, seen 11 players all in the box. Not one on the halfway line. If you put one player on the halfway line, you take away 2 players straight away. Two players straight away. If you put one halfway between the edge of the box and the halfway line, you take away another one or two. Now, why do we put them there? For when the ball comes out, the chance of the counter-attack to get the ball up, right?
Yeah.
You also put one on the edge of the box just in case they decide not to put the ball in the box and play it out to the edge of the box to hit one, right? And then where's the other place? You always put a player on the post, okay? We don't do any of it. What we do, we do 11-man zonal marking. Now, you watch that Arsenal game, 11 men, zonal marking. The Arsenal players are on the left-hand side of the pitch. The Spurs players are on the right-hand side of the pitch. You can't mark them. They're all waiting for their space. They're not marking a man. They're marking space.
Yeah.
There is no one in the space. So they're basically looking over their shoulder, waiting for a player to come into their peripheral view from there. Now, not only they're coming from the left, they're coming straight ahead. They're confused. They confuse the whole system with it. It's pathetic. I'm sorry. And with Ange saying he doesn't care about set pieces, all he's needed to say at that press conference was, I know, I'm dealing with it. That's all he needed to say. And the conversation would be dead. But no, he said, I don't care what you think. I don't care. It is what it is. I'm not putting any emphasis on it. But let's be honest, Arsenal are the best at it. We're at the worst at it. And, we conceded 2 goals. And it's no coincidence in 21st century modern day football that Brentford, Man City stole Brentford's set piece coach, who did a fantastic job, and then Arsenal nicked him. And Chelsea have just nicked Brentford's new set piece coach, who was doing a very good job. Everyone thinks it's great and it's important, and I believe it is. It's a fundamental part of our game. And as I said, scoring and conceding goals. We're just very poor at it. And had we addressed it, I basically think we would not be having a conversation. Will we be fourth? We would be fourth.
No, Johnny, the fact I get the impression with Ange that if you kind of tell him something's not right, he's just going to totally disagree with you because
correct.
He probably knows that it's not right, but he's not going to be told by anybody else that it's not right. And you can also look at it and think, if he, I know it's a stupid analysis, but if he turns around and says, yeah, we have got a big problem, everybody then dives onto it and everybody suddenly highlights that. Whereas if he says, no, we haven't got a problem, yes, the other managers are clever enough to know we've got a problem, but I'm not saying it's mind games, and I don't think he's quite the Mourinho type person that's really good at those mind games, but I just think that with Ange Postecoglou, if you say to him, you've got a problem with those set pieces, haven't you? He's going to turn around and say no.
I agree. I think.
Sorry, buddy. Sorry,
Yeah.
Dave. I'm going to have to go. I'm lingered longer than I thought. Jack, Lawrence, thanks very much,
Johnny.
guys.
Good talking to you.
Have a good time, Johnny. Hopefully, good result.
Well,
Yeah, hopefully we get a good result for you, my man, and you enjoy yourself at the game today, all right?
I will do. I'll speak to you later.
Thanks for your time.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Have a big one. Everybody, please, I'm going to put Johnny's link for his Twitter in the chat. Please make sure you get over and get on that. He puts out tweets every single day that gets a lot of engagement and stuff like that. So I'm going to get his tweet handle, put it in the chat, and please get over there and give him some love. But back to what you were saying, Soren, I do agree that I think there is a part of Ange deflecting it because he doesn't want the scrutiny on it. But whether he likes it or not, the scrutiny's on it. I mean, we've conceded 14 goals from set pieces this season. But many people are arguing we should bring in a specialist. But Ange traditionally, everywhere he's gone, even at Celtic, he hands one coach attacking set pieces and one coach defensive set pieces. I believe Millie Jedinak's on our defensive set pieces and Ryan Mason is on our attacking set pieces at this moment in time. Now, at Celtic, he had a similar problem. In the first season, I think they were one of the worst in conceding set pieces in the league. But in the next season, they were one of the best. And Ange was asked about at Celtic, and he cited that signing more players that want to go and actually attack a ball is the reason why it's improved and not so much bringing in a specialist or putting any extra focus on it. And when Postecoglou talks about the set pieces, the reason why I also think he maybe shies away from it a little bit is because when you look at some of the corners we concede, especially one or two at the weekend, we were up in their half and the ball was turned off us, over on us and straight back on us through being poor in possession or pulling out of a challenge and that. And I think that's where he's alluding to. If we're better at what I want to implement, set pieces won't become as much of an issue at the other end as well if we were better with what I want to do. So, Jack, I want to know with you, I mean, do you think Ange Postecoglou should stick to tradition here and continue with his method and maybe sign players? Because he has alluded to in the press conference, he would love more players of Romero's characteristics. And when we all know what Romero's about, you've seen that in the North London Derby, getting stuck in and stuff like that. Is signing players too simplistic way of looking at improving it, or does he need to break tradition and bring in a specialist?
It's hard. Mostly because, like I said, a lot of it I don't even think is that much. I don't think we're so bad at defending them right now. I can't even say how much of it's really down to the system. I think it really is down to plenty of times the individuals and their individual efforts. Because plenty of times, Dave, it looks like these guys are watching the ball pretty much give them a haircut or almost knock them in the face instead of jumping it and, clearing it away. How much of that really is down to just zonal marking or anything? I think that really is just this weird lack of desire or this weird lack of, I don't know, like kind of, I guess, proactiveness of just, taking responsibility to clear it yourself. It seems like a lot of these players, when you watch back some of the goals, do seem to be looking for someone else to be clearing it for them when they're easily the most, close by or the most nearby person to do so. And we know that some of the players that we give a lot of praise to has probably been some of their weakest points. Last season, we used to say Romero wasn't really the best at defending set pieces or really at set pieces in general. And I think he's shown a lot of improvement. I'd say that's one of Mickey Van de Ven's, not really one of his best sort of attributes actually has been, his ability to handle, aerial, battles with really good players in that department. We've seen him get bullied in certain games. And same thing with Vicario. Shown a lot of praise for him, but let's be honest, absolutely, something that he really needs to improve on. It just seems like, Spurs have sadly maybe recruited guys that, who are probably the usual contenders for defending your set pieces. That's probably all their worst attributes.
Look, I agree with that to a certain extent. Just quickly, big up Shane Tam as well. But I think he's just renewing his membership. So really appreciate that, brother, and big yourself up. He's been with us a long time. So really appreciate the support. But just on what you were saying there, Jack, about us not challenging and stuff. And that's been a repeat theme this season. Happened against Arsenal, happened against Wolves earlier on in the season. And there's more you can pull out. For me, when I've gone back and looked at it, and I've really analysed the Arsenal goals on some of our set pieces, I think a lot of it, reason why people are going unchallenged, there's no communication. When you're playing zonal marking, there has to be a great level of communication. The reason why is because you're in charge of specific zone. So if a player runs off you and the other player has his back to that and you're facing him, you have to open your mouth and pass him on. You have to scream at that defender and let him know he's moving on to you. I don't see any of that, and I didn't when I went back and watched the set pieces. Communication. That's how Højbjerg got caught out. If you look at Arsenal, what they done was very clever. They bunched up at the back post, and they actually came on the inside of our player and got in front of him rather than coming on the outside. And what it done, it almost put our player in where you'd want the attacker to be, and their player in where you want your defender to be, closer to the goal side of the ball. And for me, that all comes down to a lack of communication. I watched the player run off Ben Davies. He didn't shout on to the man coming on. I watched the player run off, I think it was either Højbjerg or Romero. Didn't scream to the guy in front of him that the man was coming on. And I do think with the zonal marking, a lot of our problems does actually come from communication at the set pieces. But that's been a huge problem in Tottenham in years gone by. I remember against Sporting when Hugo Lloris got up and started fist pumping and high-fiving Dyer near the end of the game. I told you, wait for it. They're going to score off the back of this. We think we've got away with this. And they went and scored from their following corner kick. It's been a problem at Tottenham for quite some time in communication at set pieces. I mean, Soren, where are you? Again, does Ange Postecoglou have to bring in specialists? Is it about signing players like he said at Celtic, which was his answer to it being improved?
Well, I think you kind of look at it, and if we jump back to part of the earlier chat that we were having, he was saying that not everybody's kind of bought into his philosophy yet. Well, maybe that's why the set pieces aren't quite as important, because until everybody buys into his philosophy, he can't then move on to doing, changing other things. Do we need a set piece? I think the biggest surprise I have with Ange Postecoglou and coaching is every other manager you kind of see brings a certain amount of coaches with him because he trusts them. So if he'd have brought coaches with him, he wouldn't have to then make them believe his philosophy. And then he could move on to coaching a lot quicker. Whereas when you come in and you've got to install your philosophy on your coaching staff, who have then got to give it to the players, it kind of, you can understand why
it takes
it
longer,
doesn't
right?
click. Yeah. I don't know whether, I mean, you've got to have a coach in there that understands set pieces, definitely. Whether we need that specialist that is only going to do that, I don't know the answer to that, because if he's managed to work it out on his other teams, and I know they're not quite the same level as the Premiership, but to me, he's already shown that he can manage in the Premiership, because we've seen those first 10 games. Don't care whether we say it's because it was different football or whatever. He still had to get those players playing that way. And I just think until everybody is on board with what he wants, we will see areas that don't come up to standard. Now, when you're defending a corner, you kind of think, it's happened several times now, so something should have changed by now. And I get that, and I think it should have done. But we don't know what's going on behind. If he feels he's got bigger problems, then they're going to be his priority. And, the problem is every other manager is seeing what our frailties are at the moment. And that, that's where we goes wrong. But say, for argument's sake, I know it's not going to change it, but if Richie comes back in tonight and all of a sudden we keep a clean sheet, or we don't concede from a corner, we just concede from that high ball, whatever, then everybody's going to kind of forget about conceding at corners until the next game or the next game. So, I think his argument of you defend from the front, which is what we said last season, that if our front players aren't defending and it's all on our defenders, then we've got a problem. Now, when it is a corner and you feel that the defenders should be the strongest point, the box is overcrowded. There's too many players in that box. And you kind of, if you do look at the odd goal that we've conceded from corners, everybody's looking around to say, well, shouldn't you have had him or shouldn't you have had him? Because nobody really knows. Now, that is where the coaching side comes in, because if it's not drummed into them, then we should be doing better. Do we need a coach? No, I think it can work without a specialist. I think the specialist is better as an attacking specialist, personally, rather than defending, because defending is an art that you either can or you can't do.
Yeah.
Personally.
Look, I mean, we had Gio, right, Jack? He was an attacking specialist under Conte, and it yielded rewards. Do you agree with Soren that maybe instead of getting in one for defensive set pieces, it's more actually look to bring in one for attacking set pieces to capitalize on it? Maybe the way Arsenal have done this season. I think they've scored 22 goals from attacking set pieces this season. They've. And look, you look at the way Premier League clubs are going. Guardiola's, credited his attacking set piece coach at times this season. Liverpool have brought in specialists and stuff like that. And at the top level now, clubs are looking to maximize every opportunity in the game going forward.
Yeah, I think, like I said, Ange has shown to my, at least from the outside, looking in, it has shown to be a bit reluctant or a bit ignorant, to disregard set pieces as a really good way for teams to either hurt you or for a way for you to get an advantage, in the game. I'm going to give him the pass for this season when it comes to having a specialist or not having a specialist. He's only just come in. I do understand that instilling his style of play and his principles for these players and for the squad in general is far more important and a far bigger task than handling, the set pieces. But I would expect within his second or third season that you would think he starts to fine or tune some things, and that would be set pieces, and that would be defending them as well as attacking them. And I've said to you in the watch alongs that it does feel like we're relying more on individual kind of brilliance from our attacking set pieces. We're relying on a really good ball into the box, just kind of into the middle or kind of into a general kind of mixing area where there's a good chance someone could rise and meet it. But then we're also relying on someone to really rise up above their defender and go for it. I'm not seeing any people getting blocked off. I'm not seeing any sort of kind of guys that are doing decoy runs or, making it look like they're the ones that are being targeted when it's actually somebody else, that sort of thing. And we had that a lot under Gio. And I think it should be, something that Ant should look at in his second season or third season. But I'm going to give him the pass, Dave, on his first season. He has so many things that he had to do already. I could understand why maybe he had put that to the back burner, put that a little bit to the side in terms of his list of priorities. But I'll echo it again, lastly, that, from defending set pieces, I think he needs to really take a hard look at just the fact that there are teams that you said to me, Dave, there are teams that give bonuses out to their players if they score a set piece. So you have to reconcile with that. Like you have to look at, they're going to cause some problems. They're studying what you're doing and they will look to exploit you. And you have to be prepared for that. And next season, I hope, he looks at that, but I might give him more of a pass for this season. I've been very frustrated, but I will give him more of a pass.
But look, I also... Go on.
I was just going to say, I'll tell you one thing that I've noticed, though. If you go back to those sort of first 10, 12, 15 games, all our defenders were fist pumping and roaring at each other when they made a tackle. Or we haven't seen that for a long time. We haven't seen Porro giving that,
That's
and
fair.
Vicario. There does seem to be a little bit of a disconnect back there. Whether they've whether this is where they're not buying into the game, that they're starting to lose a bit of faith. I don't know, but that's something that I think seems to be missing is that pumped up aggression. We haven't seen that for a long time.
And you know what? I completely agree. I'd also argue the press. That press in the first 10 games of the season was absolutely relentless. You talk about defending from the front. That's also regressed an awful lot since then. And look, maybe it is coming to what Andrew said in his embargoed section. Maybe players aren't believing it as much as they once was. But just to end off on the set pieces, I do think signings will have to happen in terms of bringing, when we're recruiting players, there have to be guys in certain positions like the number 6 who are good, big, strong, and good in the air as well. Because when you look right across our team, especially when Richardson's been out injured a lot of this season, we're very small. When you've had Son, Werner, Johnson there, none of their expertise are in the air. You go into the midfield, Papamatasar, Madison, Bissouma, none of their expertise are in the air. Pedro Porro's expertise aren't in the air. So you're more or less left with your 2 centre-backs and maybe potentially a Dozier and Vicario. So I do think signings are an element that will have to happen in terms of us getting better on them. I only think coaching and specialists will bring you so far. You also have to have players that want to go and win that ball, that want to go and head of that ball. So I do think signings will have to happen to help improve that to a certain degree. But Shawnee Maddox says here, member for 8 months, would we be doing better at set pieces if Dave was chirpy? Maybe we'd have to try all possible solutions. Look, being brutally honest, I'm not the biggest of guys, but one thing I loved was putting my head on the line. I'd go and meet that ball, and I had a very good leap. I wasn't afraid. When you look at the site, for instance, Van de Ven, and it's one of the things I highlighted when we first signed him, and I think it's one area he really has to improve on if he wants to become world class, and that's in the air. To a degree, it was argued at Romero last season, and he's improved in the air this season. He's won a lot more in the air, and he's become a lot more commanding in the air. That is an area where Van de Ven has to learn. For the size and the physique of the guy, he's like Vidic back in the day. But when that ball came in, Vidic would even push his own players out the way to go and get that ball. I don't see that in this Tottenham team, Shawnee. And I do think that's something that needs to be put in them. To be honest, if I was chirpy, I'd make sure every set piece I was down there and barking orders, making sure that players are picked up and stuff like that. So that would definitely help, Shawnee. Big up, though. Let me know what game you'll be watching. Will you be watching the Under-21s Cup semi-final, which is at 7, or are you watching Tottenham-Chelsea tonight at 7:30? Let me know, Shawnee. But good to see you in the building, sir, and really appreciate the longevity of the support as well. And also, Rakdos Madness, big up. Good to see you in the house. He says, sending love to the Irish Hotspur. Really appreciate that, brother. He says, what about including some of the Under-21s in the lineup? Will Lancashire has almost 20 goals this season. Alfie Dorrington is a beast. I'll have a quick say on this and we'll get the other boys in. Look, do you know what? I was actually very impressed with Dorrington the other day. He played right-sided of centre-back and used his right foot the whole game. very, very good. I really like Dorrington, and maybe he could be a solution between now and the end of the season at left back, if that's something we wanted to try. Maybe I look forward to giving a Doji competition next season and saving yourself in the market in terms of bringing in homegrown players, because we can't keep going and spending 27 million on or 47 million on the likes of Brennan Johnsons, who are nowhere near the complete article, to fill out the homegrown spot. So that is some area we have to look at in terms of bringing up academy players and looking to fill out the English quota that you have to meet in terms of Premier League registration. At some point, we're turning to that academy. That's why Paratici is bringing players in and got a lot of them to re-sign, so that when it comes time, we can turn around and give certain individuals out of that a chance. But look, the reason why I don't think you're going to see it between now and the end of the season is twofold. One, we're in the semi-final of the cup competition tonight. So the likes of Donnelly, Dorrington, people like that, Hall, they will not be pulled out of that squad. They're going to that game tonight, and they're going to look to hopefully get in the final of the Premier League Cup, which would be, we've done it at under 17 and under 18 level last season, and we're going to replicate under 21 level this season. So I think they're not going to ruin the academy's chance of success in that regard. But also, now that they've topped the league goes into sort of like a cup format again. We've got Aston Villa in that. Big game. So again, with a lot of at stakes for the under-21 this season, bear in mind they've already sent Keeley out on loan. The guy out at Doncaster, Matthew Craig, they've sent Ashley Phillips out on loan from the under-21 side. They're not going to decimate it any further. They're already stretched at the limits as is. Some games now, they don't even have a full bench for the under-21s. So I think between now and the end of the campaign, until the under-21 campaign is over, I don't think you're going to see any of them coming up. But also, I did hear an argument, because I am one, I believe, bring them up to show a bit of competition. But someone has made the argument, are you really giving them the best chance to succeed when players are still buying into what Postecoglou is doing? Would they not be better off suited being given the opportunity in pre-season and heading into next season when there's a bit more of a stable environment, which gives them a better chance to succeed? And I do take that argument. So for me, I think because of the under-21 success, I don't think you're going to see it. One player you might see tonight, Mikey Moore, still hasn't played for the under-18s, still hasn't played for the under-21s, has been training with the senior team for the last 3 weeks. Bear in mind, when his contract was coming up before he re-signed, Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid were in for this kid. So it does highlight maybe the talent that he has, and he could be the one we might see between now and the end of the season off the bench at some point. But that's as best as I can cover it for you, Al. That's my opinion. Over to you, Jacko.
No, I think you covered so much of that, Dave. Big up to you, Alan. Really appreciate the support, sir. What I would add is this is definitely not as valuable for you to take, but Will Lancashire, he did one of those Spurs Academy Instagram kind of, summaries of the games and, just kind of talking about, the upcoming fixtures and all that. And the way that he was sort of looking at the camera compared to all the rest of the players when they do it, it was very flirtatious the way that he was doing it. And I'm not sure whether it was a way to try to get Dave to, vouch for him to get into the team, or maybe that's why you're even bringing him up there, Alan. Yeah, it was very dreamy, the eyes that he was putting on, lots of blinking, and things like that, subtle smiles. It was very interesting from Will Lancashire. It wasn't a serious and hard man look like some of the other people tried to do it, after the game. It was very different style. So he seems to be full of confidence.
He does. And look, he's a late bloomer. Originally at the start of the season, I wasn't sold on him, but come towards the end of the season, he's done well. What I will say is he should have had about 9 goals against Fulham. He only converted 2, and he had really good chances. So he still needs to become, really, really clinical in front of goal before he makes that leap. I mean, Soren, anything you want to add, or do you want to wish the under-21s the best of luck tonight before we move on? Anything you want to say to Al?
I mean, any success at any level is great for the club, and if they can go on, and our youth teams have been so good over the last few years, and if they can progress and bring that onto the first team eventually, I don't think it's going to be this season, like you say. I think it's going to be next season. I just don't think we can afford to bring them in now. I don't think they can do any worse than our players, but the problem will be if we keep conceding and we keep losing, it's going to knock their confidence as well. I think they need to come in pre-season and go on. If they come in pre-season and they've won a cup or they've won the league or whatever, they're going to be really buzzing for next season and really trying to push that first team football. And I think the future of our club, when you look at the players we've got to come in, And, there is some exciting football to be played in the future, but I just think for now, we won't see any of those under 21s. We won't. And it's unfortunate, but it's too late in the season to do it now.
Yeah. No, look, I completely agree. I think the time to do it was when we had that injury crisis at the time. But look, those who are going to the game out in, to believe it's Melbourne at the end of the season against Newcastle, you might very well see some of them there. So,
Yeah.
Get your cameras out and send me videos of how they get on, please, guys. That'd be absolutely awesome. But big up, Al. Really appreciate the support. And everybody, please get out and check out Team Tottenham Go, Al's channel there as well. Send it up. So get over and show the guys some love over there. Big up, Al, my man. And really appreciate the support, brother. Faz Radfar 3-1 Spurs says if the ref behaves, we'll beat Chelsea 3-1. I'm on TV. I presume he means he's going or he's on TV or something like that, which would be interesting to know why if that's the case. But Jack, I mean, how much of tonight does come down to the referee? Because I know some people say it's making excuses, but I'd argue if we've got fair decisions since them Liverpool games, it probably changes the outcome of a couple of games.
I think the referees have done us no favors since that Liverpool game, and I've made it clear to you that it felt like that was going to be, the continual kind of gripe or the continual kind of obstacle that we would have for the rest of the season. Even someone on Twitter pointed out that was going to be the downfall of Spurs. Actually, more was that Liverpool game, not as much for Liverpool, but more for Spurs because we got one decision, very much in our favor, very luckily. But that then meant, for the rest of the games of this season, we weren't going to get much of a favor ever again. And I think it has hurt us. Plenty of penalty decisions that I think I've lost track and become a bit numb to it fast. So many times where players have just been, shoved in the back, handballs, keepers as well. I think, getting away with, some fouls. It just seems like, we're never going to be given a penalty unless it's the most obvious, unless it's Ben Davies getting kicked in the nuts. I think that's what it's going to take in order for us to get a penalty. Nothing less than that, I think, will be given. And I'm glad to see that you're going for the 3-1, your favorite scoreline. And we haven't had too many opportunities to be that positive, rightfully so, because we're off the back of a North London derby defeat. And also there's a lot of question marks with some of Ange's recent quotes. But I have saved some of my happy clapping and my peak delusion for this game, actually, here, Faz. I was not very confident, not that hopeful going into the North London derby. Weirdly, I was always more confident and more hopeful going into this game. Despite the record, despite the curse and everything, for some reason, this was the one that I felt, we might actually get a really good result. So that's what I'll go with. And also, Leighton Evelyn, lastly, if you're listening, this is the week that I'll be happy clapping a lot harder. Definitely not last week, but this one.
Big up, my man. Just quickly, Paul Connor says, Dave, I put in a chat about that. We're getting a yellow card every 3 tackles we do. That's crazy. I mean, it's absolutely disgraceful. I mean, the referees, and I think Adoji's the worst one for it. And I feel sorry for the guy at time because, I mean, I've seen that guy running with 2 people jumping on his back, nothing given. And then he goes to dish it back out or gets aggressive on the recovery. And all of a sudden, referee blows up, yellow card, behave yourself. I mean, I actually feel sorry for Spurs players at times because I'm one of them. I say, look, stop moaning. If you're not going to get protection from the referee, you're going to have to get on with it. But when they go to protect themselves, the referee then doubles down and, books them the other way as well. So it's sort of like a no-win situation in that regard. But look, guys, I have one more question maybe about sort of patterns and stuff going on at Tottenham before we maybe get into the lineup and talking about who we want to see tonight. And it's sort of words that I've pulled out from Van de Ven after the North London derby. But in the first half of games, for the large majority of games this season, we have lacked intensity in our game. And it was the same under Conte as well, where if people remember, they were moaning that we didn't turn up for first half of games and stuff like that. But Van de Ven highlighted after the Arsenal game, and he said the first half was not good enough. Arsenal sat back deep, but when they countered, they were ruthless. They scored almost every chance they had. I think that was missing from our first half in our group. The first half was not good enough from us. 3-0, it can't happen in your own stadium in a big game like this. And I think the second half, we played really well. We pressed up high and we controlled the game. But in the end, it was not enough. So I want to know of you guys, why do we go into games with such lack of intensity? Because it was the same underneath Antonio Conte. And I remember a lot of people put it down to Antonio Conte's warm-up because he ran the legs off them in the warm-up. And people put it down to that. But it's no longer an excuse because Ange Postecoglou does a different warm-up routine with them. And it's still happening. So And Jack, actually, 20 of our 25 league goals since 2024 have all come in the second half, which probably backs me up on what I'm saying here. So what's going on? Why do we lack that killer instinct? Why do we lack that intensity?
I'm very confused by this one because in the early stages of this season, or at least for a strong period, even when we were losing some games, Spurs were far better in the first half than they were in the second half. And now it's completely switched places where we're relying more on second half performances and second half miracles than we have been really on Spurs coming out the gates really quickly. I don't know about you, but I feel like there was kind of a guarantee at some stage of the season that Spurs were going to be scoring, or at least being the aggressor and the better team in the first 20 minutes. And all of a sudden, that's definitely not been the case again for a while now, it feels like. And I don't really know the answer to that, because how can you be both, for such extended periods? It could be down to just a little bit of player fatigue, and with player fatigue could, mean that there's some, I guess, lack of belief, or that lack of, I guess, want or desire to really continue to come out in that sort of manner, to come out in that sort of aggressive type of style. Maybe team players are holding themselves back. Maybe they are, getting tired of being, way too fatigued by the 60th, 70th minute, and they are trying to conserve themselves for longer periods. And if they think the game is going to be a bit cagey, then they will come out in that sort of lack of aggressive, lack of kind of a quick style, like you're sort of saying. But I don't have a good answer, Dave. I really don't, because I think we've been both this season. And when you have been both, what really is the answer other than something having to do with maybe player willpower or player fatigue or something in that matter?
Look, I really don't know what to put it down to. It seems to be inherent at this point. I mean, Soren, I know you said you have to bow out for a couple of minutes. Do you want to answer that maybe before you bow out and come back?
I mean, it's baffling, isn't it, that under Conte, we the emphasis was not to concede and come out in the second half. Now under Poch, you look at it and you think, oh, we need, against Arsenal, we're at home, let's have that really intense first 10, 15 minutes. Where was it? But the other side to it is we maybe don't come out like that, but we have a lot of possession in the first half. But the problem is we concede a lot, we concede a lot in the first half. So, I just want to kind of see that first 20 minutes, 30 minutes that we had against Chelsea at the beginning of the season. We need to do that tonight. We've got to show that belief. We've got to show that intensity. And if we don't, and we allow them to get some belief, that's where I think our problem is. We allow everybody else to believe in their system, rather than that first 10, 15 minutes, get a goal and move on from there. We just don't do that. And you kind of look at it and say, is Ange not motivating the players? Should he need to motivate the players is the next question to that one. That, we all sit here and think if we were professional football players, we wouldn't need motivating. And I don't get why professional footballers need motivating. It's the job. If you're not motivated to go out there and play the game you're supposed to play, there's something wrong with your mentality. And that's probably the problem with our club, is the mentality is just all wrong. Hopefully that'll change. But, I think tonight, I'm hoping, we're going to see a totally different game. I think we're going to come out for tonight and really, really go for it. I'm probably going to eat my words afterwards. But
do you know what I would say, Soren? Tottenham, I keep saying this, Tottenham do have a habit of turning up when everyone has no expectations of them. So, we might actually turn up tonight. Who knows? But look, for me, this is why I keep questioning the winning mentality at Tottenham. If we had a winning mentality, we go out with the right mentality, looking to do the right things from the off. Now, Jack's right. Earlier on in the season, there was a point where we were doing it, because I remember we were frustrated because we were falling off in the second half. Now, when it comes to the training that Postecoglou does, I know at Celtic, and I think he's replicated at Tottenham as well, as far as my research tells me, that I think he does 70, 75 minutes of pure intense training, because he's worked out that that's the sort of time that the ball's in play over the course of 90 minutes and stuff like that. And when you were fading out of games earlier on in the season, I can maybe understand why, if that's the sort of training we're doing and stuff like that. But not starting games the right way is concerning. It's it shows that maybe what Postecoglou is saying, that how many players are buying into it. Is that holding us back? Is that affecting us? But also the mentality. Van der Ven alluded to it in his in his quotes after North London Derby. Arsenal were ruthless. They came out with a winning mindset. They wanted to go and put us to the sword. We're not ruthless. It's almost like, look, we'll go out there, see what we can do, and we'll see how we get on. Rather than going out where we have to win this today. We have to find a way to get over the line. We have to be brave. We have to be lions. You know, I don't think we do that. And for me, it's a concern. And it's not just under Postecoglou. Like I said, it was here under Jose or under Conte as well. It's been a bit of a problem at Tottenham Hotspur, and something that does need to be sorted out. And look, Postecoglou maybe alluded to the answer in the press conference. He wants more players of Romero's qualities in terms of his characteristics, his quality in terms of his all-round play. But also he spoke about his desire to win in everything he does, even in little training games. He spoke about Romero's hunger and desire to win. And I think that's where we'll be looking at maybe signings come this summer. You know, players with similar ilk in terms of mentality and stuff. And I think if you get a few more of them spread throughout the team, I think that will improve. Like Soren also said earlier on in the season, everyone was fist pumping every challenge and last ditch tackles. That's not there anymore. Maybe the belief has gone out of it a little bit. But if you had, but it hasn't out of Romero. You've seen him at the North London Derby, you know. So if you had more players like him, it probably would improve. That I would maybe argue.
Just to add to that, to your final point there, that's because a lot of players sadly do need extra motivations or extra incentives sometimes to, you know, pull out the best out of them week in, week out. And most times it can be that they're playing for something, right? They're playing for, you know, a trophy because they know there's a really good chance that they still have a shot at it. They're playing for a new contract. They're playing for, you know, a chance to be the, you know, the continued starter in a team. You know, plenty of times it, you know, and it's human nature. It's not something that's crazy to say, but a lot of players, you know, will need something more than just wanting to win the game that's in front of them, where there are players that are like Romero that I think, you know, it's just the fact that he's playing on a pitch and there are 2 goals and, you know, he's defending one of them. That's enough motivation for him to, you know, to want to win the game and, you know, give that same intensity. But sadly with other players, just not the case.
It's sad, really. And look, one day we will get there. It's just hopefully we do before I turn grey and Jack turns grey. That would be absolutely lovely. But Martin Knightsbridge says, I blame Levy. He makes you pay to watch 2 halves, but we only play 1. It was the same under Poch, Dave. We would turn up in second half and score goals. And look, to a degree, you're absolutely spot on there. I remember there was a lot of games. First half, you're looking at us going, we're not at it. Second half, we come out a complete different team. And we did score a lot of late goals. I definitely agree with you on that one, Martin. To a degree, it was the same under Conte as well. We scored a lot of late goals or second half goals and stuff like that. But look, it's not sustainable. You know, at some point you have to turn up and put in full 90 minutes. And I think even under Pochettino, I think that's where Tottenham lacked to a degree. Where it really mattered, we couldn't find that 90 minutes in us. And I do think that's something that Andrew's alluded to, that he is trying to change at Tottenham. Other managers have alluded that they're trying to change it at Tottenham. And look, it does start with the guy up the very top. You look at Man City, okay, they've got a lot of money. They've also appointed a lot of ruthless people in positions that there's no way you're going there and not performing. Calvin Phillips, for example, they got him in. Look how quickly they've got him out the door. We're still holding on to players like the Celso and people like that. We just give them chance and chance and chance and chance. There's no ruthless culture, and that will have to come from the very top for that to filter all its way down. We've built a very comfortable environment around Tottenham in terms of the hotel at the training ground. If the players get up to go toilet in the middle of the night, they've got a landing strip of lights that guide them to the toilet so they don't stub their toe. And I'm not messing. That's absolutely true. I'm not even trying to be funny here. That's true. We've built a very comfortable environment. But what we don't follow up with is you can have your comforts as long as you're performing, and we don't follow up with that rootlessness. We almost allowed it to happen for 4, 5, 6 years until their contracts coming up, you know, and we don't replace them because we don't want to be paying 2 players' wages in the same position. So it is becoming a problem, and I do agree. I know you were probably joking a little bit, but I'm serious. You know, there has to be that little bit of mentality change at the top as well, that, you know, in order to change the mentality at the club to filter down, Jack.
Quick conspiracy as well for Martin. I mean, if Levy wants to take full advantage of the wonderful concessions, the beer, the sausage rolls, you would think there needs to be one half where, the team plays quite poorly so that people can go into the concessions early and get, a nice beer or sausage roll, whatever, to cover their sorrows or at least cover their frustrations. Whereas if the team's playing well from minute 1 to minute 90, everybody will want to stay in their seats and, they'll have no need to leave them. So that's my conspiracy there for you, Martin. But Dave was giving you, I think, far more serious and better analysis.
Well, look, that's just my opinion. In order for a change, it does have to come to the top for somewhat. Yeah, we can sit here and say Man City have all the money, that's why it works, but it's not. They've got rootless people in the right positions, and if it doesn't work, you're out of that football club, and that's where we need to be. And I think to a degree, Paratici is trying to get us there with a lot of people that he's brought in and stuff like that. So let's wait and see how it unfolds, Martin Knightsbridge. But big yourself up, sir, and I really do appreciate the support, my man. But guys, we are going to maybe start moving into what we want to see. Of course, Ben Davies out, Werner out, and stuff like that. So we're going to go through the team and maybe give our thoughts on it before we end off. If there's any maybe talking points and stuff like that you feel like we've missed, feel free to put the questions in and we'll do our best to get through them. If you want it to be guaranteed, because there's so many in the chat, guys, feel free to make it a super chat. But not only that, it's a great way to support your boys, or grab one of them memberships if you are enjoying the show and you want to see extra content from us, or join us on our fan shows and that, and join in on some of these conversations with us. But big up, Martin, really appreciate it. And guys, keep smashing that like button. It does wonders. We're like David versus Goliath. And believe it or not, that's why my mom called me David, because she knew I'd face an uphill battle in life being a Spurs fan. So if you want to support that cause, back David and smash that like button. That would really help. I'm genius. I come up with these things out of nowhere. But look, let's keep it moving. I mean, Soren, we'll start with you, my man. Romero came in for some praise from Ange this week, saying that he wants more players of Romero's character, citing his competitiveness and his quality, and that he really shone through in the North London derby. Before we move into, how we think Romero's going to get on tonight, because he does have form in this fixture alone, do you think there should be a change in captaincy and look to give it towards him next season?
Yes, because, I've always believed that a captain should be somebody who has a gob on him, who's not afraid to upset his mates and things like that.
Yeah.
Son, I kind of understood why it was given to Son, but I do think he was the wrong person to give it to, because he's too nice a guy. He's not that person that's going to walk up to you and shout and bollock you. Romero he's just an animal. And
you see him nearly assaulted the ref for the penalty decision.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. With what I don't get with Romero and the fan base is we want him to be this aggressive little shit, and then we complain when he gets sent off.
Yeah.
But to me, that aggression and that sort of nonchalance about him, look, he is just. We just do need 11 more players like him, or a few more. The problem we have as a team, other than, and I don't think Romero's there quite yet. We haven't got that in-your-face leader. That's what we're missing. We haven't had it for such a long time, that person who is just gonna walk around and bollock everybody, gonna shout at you. We're obviously not getting that from the sideline, so we need it on the pitch. And we seem to have a team of 11 nice blokes. And that's the problem, that there is just no aggression. I don't mind if Romero gets sent off every now and again. It's the passion. Where is it in our team? That's what I want to see. And yes, should he be captain next year? I think he'd do a better job than Son, and I don't mean that in any disrespectful way to Sonny. There are different ways to lead, and that's the thing. But on a football pitch, to me, one of the, I really hate to say this, one of the best captains two that I've seen for a long time was Adams, and then was Keane. And what did them both have in common? They didn't give a shit. They told you exactly what they wanted, and the rest of the team listened. That's what we need.
Winning
Romero,
almost
that's Romero.
outruled their friendship, right? You know, they didn't care about the friendship. They're completely happy to obliterate that if it meant getting the best out of them to win. And I completely agree with you in that regard. But Jack, how do you think Romero's going to get on? Because look, for me, I'll make the argument. I think he's matured this season. I don't think we should have as many concerns heading into these London derbies with Romero's passion boiling over. You know, since that Chelsea game, I think he's probably shown that to a degree. But he does have form in this game. Cucurella's hair pull last season, no doubt. I'd expect most Chelsea players to have a short back and sides today because they don't want that to happen. But also, Jack, earlier on in the season, he got sent off. Now, I know Andrew's come out and said he probably got sent off because of the guy he is, rather than it actually being a sending off. I mean, do you have concerns about Romero heading into these games anymore? Soren has sort of alluded, look, he doesn't really, and he doesn't even mind getting these sent-offs because he wants players more of his passion in that, which I get. But maybe to other people out there that do worry about Romero heading into these games, as there's been sign that he can handle these atmospheres and actually lead the team in the right way on the pitch rather than being down on the showers.
I don't think he's as reckless as people make him out to be. It's just that we'll occasionally catch, you know, that one tackle where Romero really just puts everything into it. And, you know, not many players do that nowadays where they are willing to really put their all force and might, you know, into a challenge or into a clearance or into a header. He's just that sort of guy. Just quickly, another point. I really liked what Soren had to say about what he could bring as a captain. The only thing I could add to it just quickly is that we were talking about earlier, players maybe not being motivated in the first 20 to 25 minutes. If you had Romero, you know, giving more of the speeches before the game and you had him, you know, inspiring players as the captain in the first 20 minutes, I think we would get better starts at times, because not only does he embody what Ange is trying to do, you know, stylistically, but also just his will and desire to win is just so, you know, incredible that he probably would inspire more players in that first 20 minutes to play like he is. In this Chelsea game, yes, he has history. I just feel like he's matured so much, and like I trust him. Like I would be very frustrated if he did get a sending off, but some of his sending offs in the past, now you look at it, like you said, perhaps, you know, a bit hard done by, or at least not consistently, you know, done to other players. And I think this leads me on to perhaps Romero's starting to understand that he has this reputation. Like, you know, he's not going to get out of it. He has to realize that referees, fans, other players will judge him by a different sort of standard, and they will look, you know, into some of his challenges a bit more with kind of skepticism and, you know, critique than they will with other players. And I think he could be coming to terms with that, and he'll have to be even craftier. He'll have to be even more clever. And we know so many nasty defenders that, you know, they always had the reputation of being nasty and kind of, little shits, like Soren said, but they've, you know, got more clever, more mature over time, and they were able to get away with it. Chiellini, great example. Ramos, great example. Pepe, great example. Godin, so many others. Like, and of course the game was different back then. I think they were able to get away with more. Still though, like, I think the game at that stage wasn't like the 90s or anything like that. You know, you definitely could get sent off very easily. It's just those guys were clever, and they learned more and more about the dark arts. And Romero, I think, will be that guy. He'll, at some stage, if he isn't already a master of the dark arts, I think he'll become even more mature and more clever when it comes to it. And so I have full confidence he won't get a red.
The biggest problem we've got with Romero is referees are watching him. You know, they're very quick to give him that first yellow card or whatever.
And he should know that by now.
And, you know, we look at one, I can't remember who the sending off was that he got. Was it this year? It should never have been a sending off. You know, the one where he played the ball and then followed over the top.
Oh, Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't a sending off because he played the ball and he carried. But look, we just need that passion. And if you go back sort of beginning of the season and last season, people were saying he does not care about our club.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying that now. You know,
I'd ask why people aren't making that observation of Maddison, who seems to be holding himself back for the Euros. But
I don't know. I don't think I just don't think. I mean, if he doesn't play well, he's not going to the Euros. So he's not going
anyway. That player.
Well, no, but that's why I don't think that he's holding himself back. I just think there is something wrong. Whether it's that you know, he hasn't got the players to play the ball through to, or the players aren't making the runs he needs. Because if we look at the way Maddison played at the beginning of the season, he was pinging balls all over the place. Whereas now, you know, they're just not. He's just not playing the same way. Now, it could be form. If it's form, it's going to come better at some point. But I don't know what it is with. It's the whole team. That confidence has gone from the whole team rather than individual players. And we saw it. We saw it last year where when the team have no confidence, we play poor. The confidence comes back all of a sudden. If we win tonight and then we win next game, you watch Maddison's form will suddenly come back because it's a confidence thing with him. Now, whether he needs to be dropped tonight or whether the system needs to slightly change for him, I just don't know what the answer is. But he plays better when Pat Sarr plays and somebody else with that. So, you just look at it.
Good sign that Maddison maybe isn't the best captain because he requires everyone else to start playing well with him. And then he can raise his own game. Whereas we saw in the North London Derby when a lot of people were not full of confidence and were probably letting their heads drop. Romero's shoulders and chest, pump even higher. And he's even showing to Kulusevski with that goal. I'll just do the pressing myself and I'll score this goal. And the guy actually started playing better and has done at times, played better when the team all of a sudden is playing terribly. And that's the sign of a real character. If you can actually start bringing the best out of your game when everyone else is playing shit, you actually don't cower away. And sadly, I put that on Maddison and a few other of our really good players. They, their heads drop with the rest of everybody else's, where Romero's doesn't.
Yeah, if you watch Maddison, he's over the last few matches he's played, when he puts that ball through, might not be a perfect ball, but you see him look as though, well, why didn't you do that? Why? He's sort of blaming other players around him rather than thinking, right, next time I do it, I'm going to get it where it needs to go. And that's the problem. Whereas if you watch Romero, everything he does, he's pumped. He, like Anne says, if he could get Romero into every other player, because he doesn't need motivating. He motivates himself. When he walks onto that pitch, he's ready.
He's motivated by winning.
Yeah, and that's the thing, that this is where the rest of the team fall down, because they don't have that walk on the pitch and think, we're not losing this. Doesn't matter what happens, we're not losing this. And that's where I think the rest of the team does fall down. We just need that player somewhere on that pitch, whether it's midfield, whether it's forward. It can't always work as a defender, but we just need somebody else that's going to stand there and say, do your fucking job, lads.
Do you know what? I completely agree. And look, some people make the argument that's outdated in football. I'd argue that's why we don't win anything. It's not outdated. We just don't have it and we don't want to use it to our advantage. I think my outlads, I think I agree with the outlad. He sees we need that version in the middle of the park as well. And I completely agree. For me, you need it sort of in the spine of your team and it sort of filters out to everybody else. But also, I think if you had that guy in the midfield, it also pushed the other midfielders to maybe, do the same. But what I love about Romero, Jack hit the nail on the head. And Sonny and Maddison were guilty of this in the North London Derby. Their heads dropped with everybody else. I was there. I watched Sonny's head drop. I watched him shy away. I watched the same with James Maddison. But one thing you cannot aim at Romero is he did not shy away. That guy is motivated by winning. Not only his individual battle, but trying to win football games. And he led that line superb. Not only did he do his job at the back, he done his job. He done the midfielder's job for them to a large degree, and also the striker's job to them for a large degree as well. He won a header at the back post that just came off the post, was unlucky. He scored our goal that got us back into the game and led us on the way. And there was also another chance as well that wasn't too far away. But that guy embodied everything. Papa Sarr came off the bench and almost done the same. But we need one or two more players. And if you've got that, it will filter into everybody else. And they won't allow, and then you'll have accountability. They won't allow other people around them to have off days and stuff like that. So for me, that's what I do want in my captain. And I've made this argument time and time again. The captain is someone in the dressing room that they don't care about friendships. It's all about winning. And they're saying it to win, whether you like it or not. We've got two leaders in there that are more friendly with everybody else and great leaders by example to a certain degree, but don't have that bit on the pitch that you really need. And that's where the heat of the battle, like you hear Son in the pre-match game to Arsenal, we've had 15 days, we're ready, we know what it means, all this lip service. But when the battle came, where was it? was only one man that was up for that battle. Only one man that went and challenged referee decisions. One man that was screaming at others, and that was Romero. And for me, we need to get more players like that. Communication is a huge problem on the pitch in the heat of the battle. There's only so much you can do at halftime and in full game to put things at full time to put things right for the next game. But in order for it to be right on the pitch, sometimes you have to have players on the pitch screaming, organizing, and leading by example to that degree. And I do think Romero should be captain. Also, to the sending off earlier on in the season, I came out and said it straight away as soon as it happened. It's never a red card. And I got pelters from our own fans about it because too many people want to believe what Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher are saying and stuff like that. But since then, I was proven right. There's been many decisions of similar tackles in other games that have been given a free pass. Michael Oliver has even let a similar go so far this season. So, it was never a red card. Romero got it because of the player he is, which is disgraceful. But since then, you go to the Arsenal game, look how he led it. West Ham, when he came back from his suspension, scored, led the right way. He's proven that he is getting it and that he's more valuable to us on the pitch. But what I love most about the guy is we speak about that aggression. And the reason why he has it and he gets away with it a lot is because he uses it right. In the tackles, in the challenges, going up for headers. He doesn't use it as reckless as maybe as he once did. Sometimes he get frustrated and just lash out. He's not doing that now. When you look at Roy Keane, Sergio Ramos, some of the great players that Jack mentioned, great leaders, they were all tough in the tackle. Going up for headers, they'd put the arms in the back of your head, the elbows, and use it in that way. And I think Romero is getting a lot more clever to that regard as well, using it in the right way, challenging it in the right way, which is very, very interesting. But I have no problem. I think he's going to lead the line the right way today. Probably famous last words, but we'll see how we get on with that. And then we're going to go in and move and talk about the change at left back that would probably have to happen. I just want to get these before I lose them. First of all, we'll come back to Paul. Rakdos Madness, big up, pal. Really appreciate it. He's gifted out 5 channel memberships, and they have gone out to Spurs GCTV, Quincy B, Danny Darko, Spurs, Paddy Harnett, and Just a Harmless Potato, who's gifted membership. For the appreciation in that regard, and really appreciate the support. Really, really generous. It's a great way because look, it's a big bad world out there, inflation and everything else. Not everyone's in a position, so fair play to you for sharing that love as well. Alan, big yourself up in that regard. And we'll come back to what Paul Connor was saying here. Big up, Rakdos Madness. But Paul Connor says, do you guys think that Romero should be captain or not vice captain? Do you think he could lead this team to glory? Look, what I'm going to say just quickly, and we'll let one of the other boys more or less answer this because I spoke enough now. But when it comes to the captaincy this season, I can actually understand why it was given to Son. When we had a lot of new players, a lot of new turnover and stuff like that, you want a stalwart of the club that's been here a long time initially to sort of get you into the club, use Son to use him to filter out your message to players and stuff like that. And it's initially a good appointment as captain. But I do think going into next season, if we want to push on and win something, personally, I think that needs to change. And I do think it needs to go into the hands of someone like a Romero, or if we buy in a similar ilk. I think initially it was a smart idea, but I would look at changing it, Paul Connor. I do think Romero could be a guy that could lead this club to glory. But saying that, you also need a squad. You need the right players. You need a lot to come together for that. But I do think Romero is a future captain of Tottenham Hotspur for sure. I mean, who wants to answer this one? And then we'll crack into talking about who we want to see at left back today. Soren, Jack, do you want this one?
Soren?
I think we've kind of already said it, that Romero would make a damn good captain. The only thing I just don't see them taking it off Son. I really don't. Unless Son walks in and says, you need to give it to somebody else, which... If he's the man he should be, then maybe he will do that. But and again, unless Ange turns around to Son and says, "Look, you're not going to play as much this season, so we're going to have to change captaincy." Don't see how you take it off him.
Yeah, true.
But it doesn't stop Romero being a captain on the pitch. There's nothing to stop him from doing that captaincy job. And
what I would say on that, Soren, though, it could be a degree that Son leads one way, Romero starts shouting at people, and Son pulls him aside and says, "That's not how this leadership is going."
I don't think Son
in
would.
my direction. It could create a bit of friction.
Yeah, I don't think Sonny would, because I think Son is quite a good motivator in the sense of, you see, he's done a few things to change the way we do things, and it's a nice thing to see on the pitch. But Sonny will know in himself he's not that get in the face type motivator. That sometimes you just need it when somebody's head goes down. You need somebody getting up to him and saying, "What's wrong? Come on." Obviously, not quite as polite as that, but I think.
Yeah.
But then what you've got to watch as well is that if we make Romero captain and he gets sent off a few times, people are going to complain that he's not leading by example. So you kind of look at it and think there's two ways. To me, Romero needs to be a captain on the pitch, whether he's got the armband or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
I think Romero, when it comes to even being sent off, like Sergio Ramos, one of the best defenders, was a captain for Real Madrid, and he's got sent off more than anybody in football history, pretty much. So, they were able to handle that just fine, and he won plenty of trophies for them. I agree with you that Sonny, I don't think, would have much of a problem with Romero yelling, because we know that Sonny, we all know, had a very tough dad, who definitely did a lot of yelling and probably a lot of tough criticism of him. So he probably is quite comfortable with Romero doing something similar. And Sonny, we know, even had a bit of a bust up with his own players in the Korean dressing room, right? For the Korean national team. He was able to show that in him. I agree with everybody else. He doesn't show it enough, but he does have it in him. So he wouldn't probably have much of an issue with it. He seems like that sort of guy. But to Paul's point, Sonny, Harry Kane, Hugo, they're all guilty of what Paul said, in that fan show. They're all figurehead kind of captains where they're respected for what they've done in the game, how they are as professionals. You would mimic everything they do about how they've gotten to the top level. It's just that when it comes to the actual leadership elements and the leadership characteristics, they're not usually the best of choices. They're not as good as maybe other candidates are. They don't speak in maybe the best of ways. They don't motivate with their own voice in the best of ways like others can, or even in their own kind of actions on the pitch. They're smooth operators, they're skilled professionals, but maybe they don't show that extra grit, that extra toughness, and that sort of desire like Romero clearly does. And I'd say Harry Kane, Sonny, Hugo, all wouldn't really fall in that Romero bracket when it comes to it. They just never were those sort of players, despite being very good professionals themselves. You never had to count them out. They always were well prepared. It's just that they didn't maybe do as good of a job at preparing others, just like they would themselves.
One thing to chuck in there as well, that if Romero does get sent off, at least we know we've got a better backup when Dragusin these days, than having to bring Davies on. And maybe that's why Romero has calmed down, because he's worried that, if he comes in and he could lose his spot. But I think Romero would make a good captain, but it doesn't necessarily have to have the captain's armband on to do that.
No, I understand. I understand the point you made. Look, fascinating debate. Do you know what, guys? Or the debate, sorry. I'm actually really enjoying this show today. So hopefully you guys out there are too. Hopefully it's being reciprocated. I'm not living in La La Land. But Paul O'Connor, really appreciate the support, my man, and great talking point. And, that point you made on the fan show that day about us pointing figureheads rather than maybe the right guys with the right leadership abilities, I think you're absolutely spot on with the point you made in that regard. But look, and we'll call it an evening. But we're going to start maybe getting into some positions in the team. Of course, Destiny Adoji, Ben Davies now ruled out for the rest of the season. We've got 5 games left. Who do we want to see at left back? I mean, there's been arguments, put Van de Ven out there, bring Dragusin in at left-sided centre back. Then there's also arguments like me saying, just put Emerson in there. He does a good job. So we'll start with you on this one, Jacko. I mean, I think I know where you're going, but maybe give us reasons why you want him in there.
I'm going with Emerson. I do feel like Emerson is going to offer what we were looking for in the North London derby, someone who will try to have a slight more defensive, cautious approach, won't always get too far forward and caught out, but then has the athleticism, has the ability to track back and to be able to catch up with the winger that they're going to try to ping the ball over the top to. He's good in the air as well, probably sadly one of our best. It's not saying much, but he is, I think, one of our best in the air, defending crosses and set pieces. And he brings in these sort of games that extra, it's nothing like he's as good as Romero or anything, but he also is a very willing competitor, Emerson. He likes to get involved in the housery. He likes to get involved in the challenges and, those personal battles with whoever he's coming up against. And I think this Chelsea derby is, of course, a great game to have someone like that coming away from home as well, where you will need to have your wits about you and you will need to be tough, both mentally and physically. And I think Emerson can bring that. And with Van de Ven as a left back quickly, like, I get it. He's good in possession. He's a good ball carrier. But I think, if he's going to ever be caught in the final third, I understand Emerson doesn't do very much out there, but I do think it will require someone who's just slightly more nimble, someone who's slightly more, agile on the half turn, that sort of thing. Like, Van de Ven's a big guy. Like, can he really do that? Can he, turn, and do a pirouette, or can he really be that sort of player? I'm not too sure. Like, no offense to him. I don't think that's a slight on him at all, but I'm not too sure.
For me, do you know what? I'm a little bit different. The reason why I don't really want to see Van de Ven moved out to left back is because I wasn't impressed with Dragusin at left-sided centre-back against Fulham. I thought he was very dodgy on his left foot. I think he played us into trouble and, maybe caused a bit of nerves that day. Some of his first few passes that he was looking to put into Brennan Johnson, he put into the stands. And it sort of didn't help us to a large degree. He was a bit shaky on that left foot all game long. And I do think it'll become a trigger point or a press point for Pochettino if he does come in there. And I worry to a little bit degree. For me, I think it's a safer option to bring Emerson at left back because I think defensively he's better, but also I think he'll help us massively from set pieces today. Look, I know Dragusin probably will as well, but for me, I think Emerson has filled in at left back a few times this season and he's looked comfortable defensively. I get the argument people make going forward, but if you were willing to sacrifice that for Ben Davies, if he was your selection to come in for the North London derby, then you can't aim that at Emerson. That's double standards and it's completely unfair. For me, I look at defensive solidity first and foremost. I think Emerson coming in at left back will give us that. I mean, Soren, where do you stand at left back position today?
Any other way other than Emerson playing left back?
Why?
I just think he's gonna play there. He's never gonna put Mickey Van de Ven on the left and bring Dragusin into the centre. We rely on Van de Ven too much. He's too big a defender for us not to have in his proper position. And why? Look, we know Emerson's played there, and he's not my favourite in the left-hand side, but I just think he's the best, the best option we've got for this game. And he's maybe a little bit more defensive and will give us that stability that we might need. But I kind of disagree with you a little bit on the Dragusin, where I thought he came into the game quite well. He played better and better as it went on. And what we've got to look at is if we bring Dragusin in and we play a back three, it's a system that we haven't played, so we're at a loss already. If we bring Dragusin in and put Van de Ven on the left, again, it's something we haven't done all season. So again, it's try and untried. If we bring Emerson onto the left, at least we know we've played that way before. So that to me is the lesser of all evils. I'd rather see a back four of Emerson, Van de Ven, Romero, and Porro, because I think that's the stronger one than changing the system or changing Mickey to the left. And like you say, I don't know how great Mickey Van de Ven, I mean, we've seen some good things for him, but I don't know how great he will be at playing the way Ange wants the left back to play, more up the field. I think his strongest part is that defender, because if Romero goes forward like he has been, we need Mickey Van de Ven to be able to cover that back slot.
Yeah. Especially with some of the pace of them Chelsea players as well, like some Mudryk, Madueke, and that idiot up front is going to turn into Prime Henry as well. So, I definitely agree with you in that regard. But look, guys, so that's probably going to be the one change that we'll probably see in defensive. So we'll move on into the midfield. I mean, and then just quickly, I need to go and check, make sure there's not a fire happening around here. I don't know whether it's a barbecue or fire, but I smell a lot of smoke, so I'm going to check. But midfield is becoming a huge problem, guys, this season, and it's probably highlighted most by Ange, who has sent out many variations this season and has made a lot of substitutions in games as well to that midfield, especially at half-time. So we'll start with you on this one, Jack. I mean, what is our best midfield tree for the last 5 games of this season? Who do you want to see tonight and why?
I'd like to see. I'm going to steal Dave's point from the members. Originally, I went with the midfield of Basuma, Bentancur, and Pop Matasar, mostly because I think they could provide the legs and the pressing, and in case we do get sort of transitioned on or counterattacked, like those guys can do a very good job of tracking back and being defensive first. But I feel like Kulusevski deserves his chance once again through the middle. Madison, for me, needs a break, needs to be taken out of the firing line. If he is a confidence player, I think with then a confidence player, right, you should be taken out so you're not further, kind of losing confidence with how poor you might be playing. I think it cuts both ways. A lot of people will say Bright needs a run of games, but I think it goes the other way, where if you've been given a long run of games and you haven't been playing well, it's often good to be taken out of the firing line so you can kind of recenter yourself and get back to your best self when you're given that break. So I'd go for probably Kulusevski to replace Madison in the midfield. Sarr, who's basically shown that we can't we can't seem to win without him, and probably then Basuma in the number 6 role. I think Basuma's been very scapegoated actually for me, Soren, at times, because I understand there are elements of his game that could be improving, where like he could go for more of those switches of play, those longer kind of range passing like Højbjerg sometimes does. But I think defensively, he's not as bad as people make him out to be. And also, like, he has, I think, shown that he is more of the future of this team than guys like Højbjerg or others. Maybe, he needs to be playing and shown that confidence, I think, by Ange. So for me, yeah, Kulu, Sarr, and Basuma. I think Bentancur would be hard done by to rest again and be put on the bench, but it's only 3 players you can give it to.
Very, very true. Just quickly, Rootlessness Madness, but another 5 memberships. He is gone madness. Big up. I really appreciate it. He's giving it out to Nitro, DJ, Graham, Frank, Marcel, Steve, Adam, Phillip, 3 for all, and also Daniel Field as well. So guys, make sure you thank Al for the generosity. Really appreciate the generosity, Al. And like I said, guys, please get over and check out Team Tottenham Go. We're big advocates. Anyone that tries these channels and sets them up, they're not easy to do. A lot of work goes into them. So I do encourage Spurs fans to follow each other and stuff like that. So please get over to Tottenham Team Go and give it a check out. But really appreciate it. Rootless Madness, the support is absolutely incredible. You're so generous, and people, make sure you say thank you if you are one of the lucky recipients. What an absolute legend. So we were talking about the midfield tree. I sort of caught a glimpse of what you were saying, Jack. Turns out it's a barbecue. Trust your boy to sniff out food. But anyway, we'll head down to you, Soren. I mean, do you agree with Jack's midfield tree, or do you have a different one in mind?
Not at all. Don't know. I mean, I kind of want to maybe see Lo Celso and Maddison play, but it's who plays behind. I mean, I want to see Pape Sarr in there, but I just don't know if that's a strong enough 3 with Lo Celso, Maddison, and Pape Sarr. But to me, Pape Sarr needs to start. Lo Celso deserves a start. So if there's going to be a change, then I would go Pape Sarr, Lo Celso, and probably Basuma. But I would like to see Lo Celso and Maddison actually on the pitch at the same time. And yeah, I don't think Kulu comes into the number 10 again. As much as he was playing well coming in against Arsenal, I think he stays out.
Look, interesting. Look, for me, I actually don't think the rest of the midfield matters apart from Pape Matasar has to play, to be brutally honest. I think whoever you put in around Pape Matasar will do well in the midfield. I think he's the key cog to this midfield. When he doesn't play, we get bet. It's that simple. We drop a lot of points. And some of our heaviest defeats this season has come when he hasn't started in that midfield. And it's becoming a huge problem. And the reason why is he does everyone's legwork. He does all the donkey work. Yeah. He does what N'Golo Kante used to do for Leicester and Chelsea. He's that sort of guy. But also, he switches play in our team more than any other player does. I've seen that guy get on the ball, switch straight out to the other side. And that's something I think Basuma's lacking in that number 6 role, that he could actually really elevate his game and become really impressive if he got that passing range. And Maddison, to a degree, I think if he was braver. But I do think Pape Matasar is the most crucial. Now, when it comes to Lo Celso, I know there's a lot of Spurs fans that want to see him. But I have a problem with that because they keep telling me that he's this great player. And I'm sitting here 4 or 5 years later, still waiting to see when he's going to put in a full 90 minutes performance for Tottenham and show me that. I'm asking for one over 4 years. I'm actually being quite generous. And he still hasn't produced it. And for me, that becomes a problem. I think he's of an era gone by where players are too comfortable and allowed to perform when they want to perform. I don't think he should be anywhere near the team. I think he should be moved on, personally. I also think Maddison should be dropped. I think there should be accountability. Johnson suffered it when he had poor form. Kulusevski was pulled out when he's had poor form. Sarr's been dropped at a point this season when he had 1 or 2 dips in performances and stuff like that. And I think it should be the same to Maddison. I don't think any player should be above it. Fair play to Postecoglou, who's hauled him off the last 5 or 6 times when we've been chasing a game and looking for a goal. He's not afraid. He's hauled Son off at times this season. He's not afraid to do it. But I think Kulu should be given the opportunity. I think he played well when he went in there against Arsenal. And for me, he has said that's where he wants to play long term, and I think he should be given that opportunity today. I think Maddison should be dropped. Don't get me wrong. I don't think everything I'm seeing from Maddison is down to him either. I think if he had better options up front, i.e. a proper striker to aim at and stuff like that, you would see him be maybe a little bit more expressive and try a lot more things. I do think a large of our problem in general, which a lot of it was put onto Kulu, people saying he won't cross the ball. I'll be brutally honest, I was behind the goal for North London Derby. I understand why he doesn't cross the ball. There's no one in there. There's absolutely no one in there. You've got 2 options. Put it in there and catch and practice for the goalkeeper, then turn it over and force you back, or you retain possession and wait to get bodies in there. Son is too slow at getting into that box to get on the end of things, and that's why it keeps going back. That's why we're seeing a lot of frustration. I think David Clark put in there about Kulu saying he's sick of all this Kulu hype. Look, when he's out of the team, we don't have that ball carrier in the team either. That's one thing he's very good at. He's holding up the ball, bringing us into play, playing his back to goal, but also driving us up the pitch. I think there's a lot of unfair narratives surrounding Kulu, and I think a lot of his problems, same with people make the argument that Son's finish off the left because his numbers are nowhere near the same. Wake up. None of the numbers are near the same for a lot of these forward players in terms of assists like that because we don't have that vocal point up front banging in the goals every week. You know, that's a huge part of it. But I do have a problem with Maddison. I think he got an early tackle against Arsenal in the North London Derby, and I think he shied away a lot of times. I think, you know, he sort of sat back in a deeper position. And my problem is, okay, if you get back in a deeper position, that's fine. But start spraying balls around. You're capable of it, and you're playing within yourself. And I think he could do it, a kick up the hole, to be brutally honest with you. And it might actually serve him well to a large degree. And maybe bring him back in for the Liverpool game and see if he does any better. But it does seem, by Ange Postecoglou's words, he's going to stick with him because he asked what's the magic formula for Maddison, and he just said persistence. So let's wait and see what happens in terms of that midfield. But I do have a problem with Jesus. He's making me go hoarse now. I think Harry Winks was the last midfielder that made me do that. But you know, he's giving me a bit of a problem at this moment in time. But look, I suppose we'll move on to the front line, guys, unless anyone else has any rebuttals or any arguments to make.
I think the midfield depends on who's up front, because for me, when we go to the front three, depending who's playing in that number 9 and who's left and right, really depends on who we have in the middle. Because for me, Maddison will play better spraying left and right to Sonny or to Kulu for them to put in. So I wouldn't give up on Maddison, but like I say, I would also like that extra little bit with Gio in there.
Look, I'm not giving up on Maddison whatsoever. I'm only holding him to these standards because I know there's that player in there. It's just about getting it out on a consistent basis. You know, I'm not giving up on him whatsoever. I'm just frustrated with him, I guess, is because I believe there's so much more in there than maybe what he's currently showing. But I have said I don't think it is all down to him. Big up, Jerry. The Jericho still with us. Big up, Jerry, my man. Good to see you. Me and you would need to have a conversation. I was jealous when I looked back on the fan show when I was stuck on the motorway and you were on with Jack. I miss having chats with you. He says, it's crazy. Thursday lineup, Vic in goals. Left back, Porro. Right centre-back, Emerson. Left centre-back, Radu. Left back, Van de Ven. Centre mid, CDM, QE, along with Bentancur and Kulu with Brennan Johnson's son on the left and Richie up front. Big up, lads. Come on, you Spurs. I mean, look, is it late at night for you? I'm not too quite sure, Jerry. You know, maybe you're having something on the rocks. That would be absolutely lovely. But look, what I would say is, look, it might not be on the realms of impossibility of what we see tonight. I mean, look, I did say with Romero, you know, you look at how he was getting in midfield, turning ball over, you know, almost progressing onto the front line and doing it as well. Look, I think Cutie's good enough to play in that CDM role, but I just don't know if Ange will use tonight's game to make that sort of change. I don't see it. I think if that is something we're going to see, it might be worked on over the course of the summer and preseason rather than just maybe a knee-jerk into tonight's game. Look, sadly, I think you will see Porro, Romero, Van de Ven, and Emerson. Well, look, maybe not sadly to me, because that's the back line I want to see. I do think you might see that, Jerry. I know maybe you're not a big fan of Emerson. Well, actually, he's trusting Emerson on the right side of centre-back, so maybe he is a huge fan. Yeah. But look, that back four, look, it's definitely something that you're changing it up for sure, rather than just sticking with the same old thing, which I completely get. You know, in terms of Bentancur coming in alongside Kulusevski, I'm okay with that, but I do think Papa Matasar needs to play. And the reason why I say that, Jerry, is 13 times this season when Papa Matasar has either missed games or started on the bench, Tottenham have dropped points in 9 of them, and 4 of them wins. Papa Matasar came on twice at halftime to help turn the tide around and go and win the game. So that shows how crucial he is to this midfield, and he has to be in there. In terms of the front line, I actually agree with you. Personally, if we had other options, I wouldn't start Brennan Johnson, and I'd hold him culpable for some of his shit crosses at the end of the North London derby that were catching practice for Raya. However, we don't have that option tonight, so I would actually persist with him up in the front line. So, guys, let's get into it. I mean, that is the front line that I'm going to pick tonight. Richarlison up front, Son on the left, and Brennan Johnson on the right. The reason why I've campaigned all season long, or very early in the season, about moving Son out to left, and I think we've seen it to a degree in the North London derby, is his confidence had got back to him straight away. Confident, getting on the ball, running at people, driving them backwards. And the opposition were scared with him running at them. Where they're not scared is when he's playing with his back to goal and he keeps getting the ball picked off him and it's being turned over on us. He's cost us 3 goals, 2 against Newcastle, 1 against Luton in that regard. And I almost think Son also looked a lot more confident and had a lot more belief in himself, getting on the ball and running at players from the left-hand side. And also with Richie down the middle, he takes a lot of the hits, which means Sonny's not taking them hits, you know, but also he can hold up the ball. For instance, Romero's goal, he chased that ball down. He forced Ray into that mistake that gave Romero that opportunity. And it also, is there any coincidence we started throwing balls into the box when Richarlison went up front? He gave us that different sort of angles and varieties in attack. So that would be the forward line I'm going to go with tonight, and I want to see. Soren, we'll let you go first on this one, and then we'll bring Jacko on. Is that the forward line you want to see, or do you want to see anything different?
No, I'm not putting Brennan Johnson up front. Kulu on the right, Richie down the middle, and Sonny on the left. I think Sonny in certain matches can suit that number 9 position, but when we're playing against any team that are going to defend against us, then we have to have Richie on the pitch. And that's where I come back to saying with Maddison, I think Maddison suits Sonny being on the left and Kulu on the right, because he can play them balls left and right, rather than when Sonny's down the middle, he's trying to put the ball down the middle and there's no room. That's the problem. You know, teams are letting us have room on the wings. There's nothing down the centre. So if Sonny's running in from the left, Kulu's coming from the right, obviously we know he's going to cut in, but to me, Sonny on the left, Richie down the middle, Kulu on the right.
And Jack, I mean, well, I suppose you want Kulu in the camp, so you're going to have to go Brennan Johnson on the right?
No, I'm totally for it. And I've, throughout the season, you know, have slowly and very slowly, emphasis on that word, warmed up to Brennan Johnson. And as much as I think he frustrated me in the North London derby, I would say the big sign of improvement from him was that he was trying to do the right thing. It's just the quality and the execution was really poor, I think, from him. And I'm going to give him that benefit of the doubt that it'll be much better this time around. I think Chelsea defensively have been very leaky and very inconsistent, and he could cause problems to whoever lines up at left back. I can't even say who their regular left back is this season. That's probably how shaky it has been for them out there. So I trust Brennan Johnson to cause problems. And if they even dare to leave any space in behind, I think, again, with that shaky defense, he could cause problems. I actually agree with, if you're going to go for a crazy lineup, I agree with Jory's kind of crazy lineup. The only change I would make is Emerson to left back and put Van de Ven back at left-sided center back, and then you would put Dragusin back into the right-sided center back. That way you don't have to worry about him being uncomfortable at all, Dragusin. And then the rest of it, I'd be all right with it.
Do you not worry about the lack of defensive commitment from Brennan Johnson?
Oh,
I mean,
at times, yeah, that's one of my big frustrations.
Going forward, I certainly think he's improved going forward, but that's where I think Kulu on the right helps Porro. He's all, you know, he runs backwards and forwards, and he does a big defensive line.
Disagree.
And I think Sonny helps the left side a little bit more than Brennan Johnson does. And I think that's the poorest part of Brennan's game is that defensive side. And against Chelsea, as much as I think we'll have a lot of possession and I think we will win tonight, I do think we also need that help with defensive side.
Look, I don't disagree. I mean, it's one of my biggest problems with Brennan Johnson. Me and Jack have alluded to it plenty of times with Brennan Johnson, you know, copping out on the track back and stuff like that. I completely agree with you. I just don't want to see Lo Celso being given the opportunity, and I want to see Maddison maybe, you know, take a bit of accountability. But, you know, look, personally, I think we should get back to, you know, Basuma, Sarr, Maddison, Kulusevski, Son, Richarlison. It's when we've been at our most lethal. It's when we look at our most fluid, and I would like to get back to that. So, look, any variation of that, I'm happy with, to be brutally honest. So, look, let's wait and see what Ange Postecoglou does. But Jerry does follow up, says just playing, but it shows the flex of a squad. They're playing Football Manager, Jerry. I do like playing that game myself, my man. But look, it does show that we do have options and a bit of flexibility, right? I do agree with you to a certain degree. I'd even argue Pedro Porro could probably play a winger if you maybe, you know, took all these defensive responsibilities away. I'm not going to say you're going to get Gareth Bale, but would you see a player that could actually adapt to the right wing and produce good numbers, world-class numbers? I'd maybe argue that as well, Jerry. But big up, my man, and really do appreciate the support, lad. Crazy Thursday lineup. Hopefully we can get back to reality for the game at Liverpool on Sunday. But absolutely love it. And look, you know, we might see it tonight, and if we do, I'll definitely be calling you the Oracle. Just quickly, I think I've missed out on a couple of people signing up for memberships. Sorry, we have Martin Knightsbridge says we don't have a proper six, so Biss is the scapegoat. Look, I completely agree with that. I've alluded to this quite a lot recently. I think everyone's making Basuma the be-all and end-all of our problems, and I don't think that's quite fair. I don't think that narrative is quite right. When you look at our problems this season, where a lot of the goals come from, statistically, we actually block up the middle quite well. A lot of them come down the right, and then the left-hand side is becoming a lot more of a problem over recent times, which it wasn't earlier on in the season. So it's more, how do we cover the flanks more so than actually Basuma being a problem. I get, you know, he's been caught out once or twice on the track back, and that's just laziness. That is something he has to be better at. And almost, if he wants to be the perfect number six, you know, display a bit more of a passing range as well, because if he doesn't have that, we automatically have to play these intricate passes right the way through the middle. I think sometimes if we had that number six with a good passing range, we could hit Sonny early, we could hit Johnson early, release them a lot earlier, and actually get them on the ball in a lot more space with a lot less people to play through. And I think we'll become a lot more devastating. But to a degree, I think Basuma's done I think Basuma's a good player. I think I'd argue I'd actually like to see Papa Sarr in the number 6 and move Basuma into the number 8. I think if you got Basuma higher up the pitch and you could get him back to where he was similar earlier on the season, dribbling at players, running into the box, causing a bit of chaos, I think you would get a lot more out of him. Let's not forget, Conte didn't play him because he didn't really understand the defensive side of the game the way he wanted to, and I think that's maybe a part of his problem. But again, we're shoehorning the player into something he's not. We got to stop doing this at Tottenham, and it does come down to buying the right pieces of the puzzles. And when you get that, I think you see Basuma maybe move into that number 8, and I think you see a lot better out of him in that regard. Martin Knightsbridge, big yourself up. We have Darius as well. Look, I'll make a go at the last name because it always sounds good in an Irish accent, but I'll probably butcher it. Darius Valianakis. So there you are, my man. I made a good attempt. Really appreciate the support, brother, and big yourself up. James Coffey as well, also grabbing himself a membership. I think he's already been a member. I think he's just renewing it. So big up James as well on that, my man. Really appreciate it. And then Davy Shire has...
Oh.
Yeah, that's gone to Swim Master. So big up Davy Shire, my man. And Swim Master, I know you've already said thank you to him for that in the comments as well. So big up. Really appreciate all the support today, guys. But look, I will have to end it off because I do have to make my way over to Tottenham TV before I get back here to commence the watch along with Jacko, which I can't wait to do. And hopefully all you guys get back with us for 7 o'clock, where we will kick off the watch along. I'll go around to the guests and I'm going to get their score prediction. Soren, big one today, hard one to call because we don't have a good record at Chelsea over the last 20 years. I mean, look, what's your score prediction?
Well, firstly, what I will say is just alluding somewhat quickly to what you kind of said earlier and what we've missed. I think if Richie comes back in, one of his strengths is that closing down. He runs tirelessly closing down, and I think that's what we need tonight. Score prediction, I think we're going to win, and I think it's going to be 3-1.
Ooh, 3-1. Do you know what? I've heard that a lot the last couple of days. Maybe it's Lord giving me a sign. I was listening to a bit of DMX, Lord Give Me a Sign earlier on. Great song. So maybe he is giving me a sign with all these 3-1 predictions. Jack, are you as confident as Soren heading into tonight's game?
Like I said earlier, I wasn't very confident about the North London derby. Had a feeling that we weren't going to show up, or it just wasn't going to be the result that we wanted. I originally, though, did feel very confident about the Chelsea game. After the result of the North London derby, slightly less so, but still confident. I'm going to go 2-1. I could see this being a draw, but I mean, of course, I wouldn't be that surprised at the end of the day if Spurs did lose, but I've been more confident this time than other years that we'll get something over them. I mean, this Chelsea team on their bad days, which is very often, they are a bad team. And I hope we get to, take advantage of that if that bad version of Chelsea shows up today.
Look, I really do.
Remember, Dave, is everybody keeps going on about we don't play very well against Chelsea, and blah, blah, blah. History's got to turn at some point.
Donovan Osterreicher. I like Donovan's. We're either getting battered or we're going to slap them. I kind of think that's how a lot of people feel. That's how a lot of people probably feel. Yeah.
Look, we're facing an uphill battle today, no doubts about it. We've got a big omen on our shoulders. I remember we were top of the league or going for the league title under Pochettino, and Chelsea had nothing to play for and still turned up and ruined it. They're going to turn up tonight. But tonight, it's all about us. Do we turn up for the fight? If we turn up for the fight, I think we turn them over. Their back line is decimated. The midfield is decimated to a certain degree. Sterling is out as well. He always scores against Tottenham. So, there is a real chance for us to go and rewrite a bit of history, like Soren is saying, and go and win this game today. But I think it all depends. It's all on us. Look, Cole Palmer's a terrific player and could be a match winner. If we can take him out, then it's really about whether we're going to be brave or whether we're going to be tentative off the back of the North London derby. So, look, let's wait and see what happens. However, Tottenham do turn up when no one expects them to pull a result out of the bag. I'm going to go 3-1 like Soren today. I'd have no basis, no reasoning for it, but I will never predict Tottenham not to win either. So I'm going to go 3-1 today. Interesting enough, though, I think Son's only scored 2 in his last 10 against Chelsea or something like that. So we might have to look for a different goal scorer to step up today. Maybe we might get the return of the Mac, a.k.a. Richarlison with a prue, bit of a pigeon, or Romero might send me crazy, hope for a round bomb, like that fuse, and hopefully it goes off. But guys, that's it from us. Hopefully you've enjoyed the show out there. I want to say a massive thank you to Soren. Great to have him back. Great contributor to every show that this guy is on. Really appreciate your time today, my man. An absolutely phenomenal guest. You, my man. Yes, you. I do like your contributions to shows. I see you on a lot of shows and stuff like that. So really appreciate you giving up your time today. Also, Johnny as well earlier on, giving up his time before he heads as well. And then Jacko for getting out of bed, I suppose. Decent enough time in the morning to come and join us today as well. Although he's usually up early anyway, to be fair to him. But he could have just said, no, Dave, I want my bowl of Cocoa Pops. But he didn't. He joined us. So give him a round of applause. But guys, that is it from us. We'll see you back here at 7 p.m. for the big game. Hopefully we turn up. Come on, you Spurs. In the mighty arms we trust. We never stop.
Come on, you Spurs.